This podcast contains adult language and stories of true crime. If you don't like laughing, crying, or being horrified at the actions of other humans, this podcast is not for you.
Let's do this intro.
Okay, we doing it.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Unsolved Mysteries. If this is your first time listening, we rewatch episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, and then we update each segment. You can watch on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Tubi, and Pluto TV. To see the photos we reference in the episode, follow us on Instagram at _solved mysteries, on Facebook at Resolve the Pod, and on Twitter at Resolve the Pod. You can also contact us at resolvedmysteriespodcast@gmail.com. We also have a P.O. Box, and we are so excited that we're getting mail. The P.O. Box is 14005, Portland, Oregon, 97293. We want to shout out our newest patron, Megan C. Thank you so much. And we got some goodies coming your way. Mm-hmm. And then we also want to talk about how I set up a merch store.
Oh, yes.
So by the time you hear this, our patrons will have already known. Mm-hmm. But we set up a merch store. The URL is resolvedmysteriespod.threadless.com. We have t-shirts and mugs and iPhone cases. And
oh my gosh, beach towels.
Oh my God.
Water bottles.
So many things. Oh. And if you want a shower curtain with our logo on it, just let me know and I can have one made for you. It's no big deal.
That would be kind of weird, but do your thing. So it's kind of a whitey of you.
Not really.
No.
A little bit.
Okay. Whatever.
You know, Alcatraz was a really big topic, and there were a lot of things that we talked about. So, of course, we had to mildly mess up and or not go over some of the details of some of it.
Yeah, which is completely understandable.
Yes. We talked about so many things. We could not go on forever. But one of the things that we had wondered about during the recording and that a couple listeners wrote to us about were, the first one was the Alcatraz Women's Club Cookbook, which we made some jokes about. And we just want to clarify what that actually was because it is interesting. It was created in 1952 by the wives of the men who worked at Alcatraz. And here's some information I found on it from whiskandpen.wordpress.com. Since the island had little to offer to combat the isolation of the civilian population of about 260 people who lived there, up to 90 of them children.
Oh my God, that is not enough people, and that's too many children.
You're right. That's not a good ratio. There were social clubs such as an officers club, Just Us Girls, Jugs, for the older girls.
Oh my gosh.
And the women's club that collected recipes for this little cookbook.
Oh, God.
Like any community cookbook from the 1950s, it includes the tastes and flavors of the time. Stewed chicken with dumplings, roast beef with Yorkshire pudding, sloppy joes, and the obligatory tuna fish casserole.
I was going to say, are there a lot of casseroles in that cookbook?
You know there's a lot of casseroles, honey.
And Jell-O molds.
Yeah, probably lots of gelatin. And then the other thing we were wondering aloud about was the families, like what was their life like when they lived there? So here's a little blurb from AlcatrazHistory.com. At any given time, there are about 300 civilians living on Alcatraz that included both women and children. The primary living areas for families were building number 64, 3 apartment buildings, 1 large duplex, and 4 large wooden houses for senior officers. Families enjoyed their own bowling alley, small convenience store, and soda fountain shop for the younger island residents. Families did most of their shopping on the mainland since the prison boat made 12 scheduled runs to the Van Ness Street Pier each day. The warden lived in a large house adjacent to the cell house and actually used inmates with good conduct records for cleaning and cooking.
Oh my God.
They also had a building called the Social Hall, which was also known as the Officers Club. So it was basically a social club for them. The club had a small bar, library, large dining and dance floor, billiards table, ping pong table, and 2-lane bowling, and was the center of social life on the island for employees at the penitentiary. They hosted dinners, bingo events, and from the 1940s onwards showed movies every Sunday night after they had been shown to the inmates during the day on Saturday and Sunday. The club was responsible for organizing numerous special events on the island, held either at the hall or the parade grounds, and the fundraising associated with it. Anything from ice cream and watermelon feasts to fancy Halloween dress and Christmas parties.
So it's like summer camp, but with prisoners.
I guess so.
The warden would have the prisoners clean his home.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I found some other interesting articles from like women who were children when they lived there. And they interacted with the prisoners more than you would think.
Oh my God.
Yeah, maybe I should link to that article.
Yeah.
There was
Because I
an
would read
interesting
it.
one. Yeah. There was one other thing that a listener sent us about Alcatraz, which was an article that was actually from Inside Edition, but it's called The Children. I know.
They have the hot goss.
Yeah, the hot Alcatraz goss. It's called The Children Who Once Called Alcatraz Home. For us, it was a big playground. And it's super interesting. It kind of focuses around one guy who was 6 when he left there. It's worth checking out. We'll put it in our episode notes.
In that article, is there much about how the children had interaction with the prisoners?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, awesome.
Yeah, there's some stuff in there. So that was sent to us by a listener named Courtney. So thanks, Courtney. And then we also had an email from a listener named Karen, and she was actually referencing what we were talking about with not knowing about West Coast relations to the Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
So she sent us something. She's a local of Oregon, and she wrote us about a place called Officers Row in Vancouver. And she said, in fact, if memory serves, Ulysses S. Grant was stationed there during the war. And she sent us some links for that. And then she also said Fort Stevens outside Astoria was built during the Civil War to guard the territory, which
That's crazy.
I knew at one point.
Yeah.
And totally forgot. So that's super cool because Eliza and I have both been there. Yeah, it's really cool, but I just forgot that it was built during that time.
I know the Goonies were filmed there.
Correct.
Both places are great. Go to Astoria and go to Fort Stevens.
And then she also told us about a series of children's books by an author named Jennifer Choldenko about a boy who lives at Alcatraz with his family. She said the first book is called Al Capone Does My Shirts.
Oh, wow.
It's meant for like middle school age, but she said it's a really fun read.
Thanks, girl.
Oh, I don't even know if either of you saw this. I think it was on Facebook, though. Someone had said the reason why, because I kept saying, why are there so many bank robbers? Why are there so many bank robbers?
Yeah.
It's because it was a federal prison.
Yes.
So in order for you to get there, it would have to be bank robbery, kidnapping, trying to move large quantities of drugs. And I realized, oh, right, duh.
Yeah. So yeah, those were just a couple things we wanted to update that we kind of had questions about during last episode.
Yes. I think that this was particularly critical because it's such a well-known topic, whereas normally, like, no one's going to criticize us on the disappearance of X, Y, and Z because they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
That's
history enthusiasts, quote unquote, it's going to be nitpicky. So I do think possibly with Bigfoot, definitely with Roswell, which you and I cover, Eliza. But there are some things that are coming up that, like, people just know a lot about and they want to share what they know. I don't remember who it was that their sister threw up on Alcatraz because she got seasick.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. And I promised my sister I would stop making fun of her for vomiting on Alcatraz. It's amazing.
That's so funny.
And with that, we get to never talk about Alcatraz again.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so this episode, you're going to hear a promo about a wonderful podcast. So Dirty Bits is a podcast that covers the scandalous and salacious stories from history your teacher probably left out.
All right. I think that's it. All right.
Well, we need to say what our topic is.
Right.
I am covering the unexplained death of Mickey and Trudy Thompson.
I'm covering a wanted segment. The person who is wanted is Michael Wade Mohon.
And then brace yourselves.
Oh, God.
It is
I can't.
the Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Yowie, the skunk ape.
Oh.
The Yowie.
Yes, honey.
All right, and then I have got a Lost Heirs, George J. Stein.
And then I have the unexplained death of Joyce McLain.
Oh, so we're going to end on a sad one.
I know. I was like, why didn't they swap that with Bigfoot?
All right, let's get into it.
Let's do
go.
it.
Are we recording?
You were really ready to go.
Okay, so first segment. This is the unexplained death of Mickey and Trudy Thompson. I think last week when I talked about this being on our next episode, I only mentioned Mickey. I hadn't watched yet, but it's definitely about both of them. So most of these details I got from Unsolved Mysteries in what I'm going to tell you next. But I also have added in extra information where it makes sense that I got from articles and also an episode of 48 Hours.
Yay!
Oh, and it was just so detailed.
Isn't it fun to watch a show?
Yes, about what I'm going to talk about. It made it so much easier.
Oh, so good.
But also harder because then they gave so much more information that I was like, I have to look into this. This is crazy. So that episode aired in 2007. So this Goes a long ways.
Wow. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah. This case was also featured on America's Most Wanted, but I couldn't find that episode anywhere to watch.
Yeah, I tried to find like for other
Yeah, they
segments
don't have
too.
it.
They don't give that shit away at all.
So the 48 Hours episode was really helpful, and we'll link to it if you want to watch it. I honestly would recommend it for a few of the things I'm going to talk about. Also, they had so much more information because it was like over an hour long, and it was way later than obviously when this Unsolved Mysteries episode was filmed. So let's get into it. So Mickey Thompson is described by many as an American hero and pioneer of auto racing. He was born in 1928 and lived his life racing, innovating designs, and breaking records in all different forms of the sport.
Like the true definition of a daredevil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So a teacher described how he struggled in school, and so she let him work on her car. And today, if he had been in school, he might have been diagnosed with a learning disorder or ADD or ADHD, and he like never learned to spell, just had a really hard time with a lot of that. But he was a genius at mechanical work and creativity, and he clearly had a drive to succeed doing what he loved. And I just thought it was so cool that the teacher was like, well, here's something you're struggling with, but here's something you're really good at, and go with that. Like, you don't have to be like everybody else.
Also fix my car.
Yeah, and clearly he will, you'll find out, be so successful. So, over the course of his career, Thompson set more speed and endurance records than any other man in automotive history.
That's crazy.
Yep. He is best known for breaking the land speed record in 1960 when he drove his four-engined Challenger 1 at 406 miles an hour at the
That's
Well, I can't even conceive of that speed.
I would be I would just pee the entire time.
No, I will post
What does
pictures
it
of
feel
all
like
this.
to go that fast in an automobile?
Like, is
know.
it even? Can you even tell you're moving that fast?
I know. I'm interested in that too. Well, now that was 1960. Now it's up to like 763.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What does the inside of the
thank
car
you.
feel like?
I don't know.
I wonder if you feel. I was talking to someone recently who had whose friend had a Tesla, and she said that when you gun it, you feel like G-force pushing you back because it goes from
You'd be,
0 to
like,
60
glued
in
to
a
your seat.
nanosecond. It's
There
crazy.
must be some. I mean, not pressurization, but there has to be something that protects you from some of that.
Yeah.
Within those vehicles. So yeah, he broke that record at the Bonneville Salt Flats, which is where a lot of these land speed records are broken. And he was the first American to break that. I think a British guy owns the one right now, the 700-something one.
Wow.
So that same year in 1960, Thompson was also in a speedboat accident that broke his back and paralyzed him. Doctors told him he would not walk again, but he made a full recovery and continued his successful career.
It's amazing.
Lucky.
This part was something that's not in Unsolved Mysteries. So 7 years prior to Thompson breaking the land speed record, he was racing in the Carrera Panamericana race in Mexico. And the brakes on his car jammed, and he hit and killed 6 spectators who had gathered in a dangerous area to see a relatively much less dangerous crash of another driver that had happened just minutes before.
Oh my god.
And that, the Carrera Panamericana race, I think it might be closed down now. It killed so many people.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous. Racing in general has gotten so much safer, but it's very dangerous. Yeah, and so this is a tidbit that Unsolved Mysteries left out, and I could only find like a couple articles that mentioned it, so I think the family like really doesn't want it talked about. And of course, it's not his fault.
No.
Yeah, no, they were where they were not
But
supposed to be.
it's awful.
Yeah.
So Mickey Thompson also was the first to promote and stage off-road races in a stadium venue.
Oh.
Yeah, so he says, quote, "I took part in a lot of off-road races and always wondered how we could get more fans to come out and watch. When I couldn't come up with a good idea, I just decided to bring the racing to them." So they would even do it in like baseball stadiums and just
So, like-
into the cities.
Is it like the monster truck rallies where they're going over like giant?
It's similar to that,
Okay.
but more drag racing. And then I'll talk about some other business ventures that he gets into, but yeah. So Mickey married Trudy Thompson in 1971, and the two were best friends and business partners.
I love them so much.
They are just so they supported and cared for each other, with Mickey often calling Trudy baby, but not in a gross way, in like a really he loves her way.
Not in a demeaning way.
Yeah. You can see footage of them, and they do seem so happy. And not every married couple could spend that much time together. So they worked like all day together.
Not every wife could be supportive of you risking your life literally every day.
Every day.
And I think by 1971, like he had already been married once and had a son with his previous wife. So I think by 1971, he was getting close to the end of racing. So she wasn't around for like the super horribly dangerous things.
That was his first wife.
Okay.
Yeah, but probably still some of
She
it.
said goodbye.
Yeah.
But I read later that like eventually Trudy was like, I'm going to leave you if you keep doing this. So, and he listened to her. He respected her. Okay, so enter Colleen Campbell, Mickey Thompson's younger sister. She is a key player in all of this and a true queen.
Yes.
I love her so much.
Yes.
She's in Unsolved Mysteries. She's in the 48 Hours episode a ton. She's basically running that show. So she says about Mickey was the guy you always turned to and always trusted.
Oh.
So at the time of this episode airing, Stack tells us that the Thompsons' friends and family have put up a reward for $260,000 for information leading to a suspect's arrest in their murders, which I'll talk about right now. But this family has some money, and they want justice for their family. So Colleen tells us on Unsolved Mysteries that Mickey, who in 1988 was 59 years old, and Trudy, who was 41, they always left for work very early in the morning, and they often worked 16-hour days on their various racing and motor parts businesses.
What a amazing thing to love somebody, share an interest, and then get to do that interest professionally together.
Yes.
For 16-hour days.
And to want to do
want
that.
to do that.
And not kill each other.
I've never wanted to do anything for 16 hours a day.
No. So...
Oh, that's a lie.
Yeah, I was going to say. So at this time, like I said, Mickey had stopped racing. So this is 1988. Mickey had stopped racing and was focusing more on his business and spending time with Trudy. I guess Trudy had some health things. And so that was kind of really the last straw where he was like, okay, I want to spend as much time with her as possible.
Oh,
So their usual habit was, as they left for work, Trudy would back their van out of the garage, and Mickey would be inside the garage. And when she'd back out, he would push the button to close it because they didn't have remote garage door closers yet.
Aww.
Then he would go out a side door and lock that up, and then come join her in the car, and they would go to work. On the morning of, I can remember when we never had a house that had a garage with an automatic door. We never had a house with a garage. What am I talking about?
I remember my grandpa doing that.
Really?
My grandpa and my grandma. Yeah.
I remember neighbors having it, and I would press the button and then try and get under the beam so it couldn't.
Like Indiana Jones.
Yeah. That was fun. But Mickey wasn't into that. He went out a door like a classy man. He was a daredevil, but not a garage door daredevil. Okay. This part's sad. I shouldn't be laughing. Okay, so... Oh, everyone got so serious.
Well, I love them so much.
Demeanor. Oh, I love them. I know.
I'm so sad.
Much. I know. So on the morning of March 16th, 1988, they were doing just that, all their routine stuff, when neighbors heard multiple gunshots. And then they heard Mickey's voice pleading with someone and saying, "Don't hurt my wife. Don't hurt my wife." There were then many more gunshots and then silence. When sheriff's investigators arrived quickly after, they found Trudy laying near the end of the driveway next to the couple's van. Closer to the garage, they found Mickey. Both victims were pronounced dead at the scene. In the 48 Hours episode, they go further into detail about what may have happened at the scene. But basically, there were two shooters, and one shooter was most likely hiding in the bushes close to the side door that Mickey was going to come out of, and the other was probably a bit farther down the driveway in the bushes. He would have been on Trudy, and the guy near the door was probably assigned to Mickey. So when Mickey closed the garage door and walked out the side door, Mickey's shooter probably confronted him and shot him, but did not kill him yet. And then at this point, Trudy was backing the van out and may have tried to get away quickly, so maybe backed her van farther, or stayed in place to help Mickey. But either way, shots were fired into the car.
Oh.
And the van continued to roll backwards down the driveway and eventually stops because it hits their fence that kind of curves.
Oh, interesting.
So then investigators think that she opened the car door and began crawling away. And this is probably when, this or a little before is probably when Mickey yelled, "Don't hurt my wife." but the second shooter walked up to her and shot her point blank in the back of the head.
No.
Something Mickey could probably see. And then Mickey was shot and killed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awful. One of the investigators on the 48 Hours episode described it as one of the most violent and sad crimes he'd ever seen in his 16 years as a homicide detective.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that is, too, like, why they found Trudy's body down the driveway. Hers was almost, like, in the road. It was so far away because it had rolled with the van. I mean, she had rolled in the van and then tried to get out. So investigators, upon looking at the scene, were able to rule out robbery quickly as a motive because they found $70,000 worth of jewelry on Trudy's body.
I was like, wow.
I know. I was curious how accurate that was. That was like some costume jewelry.
Like Mr. T style?
Yeah, like
how much weren't they going to work? She's like, hold on real quick.
They're like, you know, moguls of racing.
Oh my God.
So they're like a king and queen kind of.
Yeah.
But that would be $150,415 in jewelry in today's money.
I don't even know what that
And
would
they
be.
also had $4,000 in cash in their pockets, which is $17,000 in today's money. So one of the investigators on the scene, Michael Grigg, says that it doesn't make sense why those items wouldn't be stolen. He says they would have been easy to grab. She wasn't wearing like long blouse sleeves that would cover them. They were right there. He's like, why not just take it, or at least some of it? And so this is where the idea that it was a contract killing comes into play. Mm-hmm. Because if it were a contract killing, even though there's like a really fancy ring on her finger, they have a job to do. They can't waste any time pulling a ring off her finger, and they're going to get a payout anyway, so they don't need the money from that jewelry.
Although, wouldn't it be smarter to pull some of the jewelry
That's
to
what I
make it
thought.
look like a robbery?
I thought that too, but they probably just... So I'll get into it, but I think they didn't feel like they had enough time.
Well, and it was only like 6 a.m, right? Like,
yeah.
People would have heard it.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
That's true.
They
So
didn't have a
people
lot of
heard the
time.
gunshots.
And
I'm
people
sure they
did.
called 911.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right.
Yeah, so on the morning of the shooting, one of the neighbors that heard the gunshots reported seeing 2 black males riding away from the crime scene on bicycles. And then other neighbors noticed the 2 men riding away from the scene, like farther down the road.
Bicycles.
Yeah. Others had seen them in the area in the weeks prior to the murders. And this is like a fancy area
I was gonna say that.
Sadly, were not a lot of black people living there, so they stuck out. Like, white people noticed them. So... Based on this evidence, investigators were certain that they were the killers, that they had pulled the trigger, and that they were hired by an unknown man who wanted the Thompsons dead. So Mickey's sister, Karlin, believed that the killers had studied the Thompsons' routine. On the morning of the murders, she believes the killers waited behind the bushes, like I said. She knew exactly what time they were going to leave, and she knew that Mickey went out the side door and, or they knew that Mickey went out the side door and that Trudy backed to the van out, so they knew right where to stand. But investigators did not immediately understand why the killers came to the crime scene riding bicycles and shot the victims in a nice neighborhood without using a silencer. So they suspect that the killers may have planned on abducting the victims and killing them in another location, but that something must have gone wrong, or the first shooter just like got afraid and shot Mickey Thompson right away, which like foiled their whole plan kind of. And that's why they were killed in the driveway. And then something was found at the crime scene was a stun gun that did not belong to either of the Thompsons. So that's another reason why the investigators thought maybe they were just going to try to abduct them. Mm-hmm. What doesn't make sense to me is, so maybe they were planning on holding them at gunpoint, making them drive somewhere in the van, and then kill them somewhere where a silencer wouldn't be needed. But they'd also have to like put their bikes in the van. Like that would take time.
Yeah.
I don't know. And why
Also-
have a stun gun if you have a gun? I mean, I guess it's quieter.
I mean, but if they'd been watching them, they knew what their vehicle was. Maybe they were like, we know we can throw our bikes in there.
Right.
I don't know.
I wouldn't fuck with Mickey Thompson. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
To think that you could kidnap somebody.
Or assume that he doesn't carry a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
And some reports, so I'll get into that, but some reports say that he did start carrying a gun based on what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
Okay, so you're not jumping ahead. I'm just trying to give a good lead, which it's not. It's not good.
No, you did great. You did great.
Mickey's sister Karlin explains that Mickey was afraid for his and Trudy's life when a business associate was threatening to kill them. And at first, Karlin couldn't believe this to be possible, but Mickey assured her it was, and he gave the man's name and said he is most definitely capable of having us killed or hurt.
That's crazy.
And this is one of the instances where he calls Trudy baby because he says to Karlin, I'm just afraid he's going to hurt my baby. And this was just days before their killings. So at the time of the airing, of course, no one had been caught. The trigger suspects were 2 black men in jogging suits. At the time of the murders, they were between 20 and 30 years of age. They were both believed to be about 6 feet tall, muscular in build, with one of them a bit more stocky in size than the other. But they have not been identified, and suspect sketches were shown, but no one came forward after watching the episode. And then the prime suspect, so the man who orchestrated the killings, was not named in the episode, but Karlin knew his name based on the information Mickey told her regarding the threats, and she would spend the next 13 years fighting to see him charged with orchestrating the murders.
Whoa.
Yep. So that's basically where the episode ends, and then I've got some things to share.
I bet.
So our queen, Karlin, we love her so much. When her son, Scott, was 29, he disappeared without a trace. And this is before Mickey Thompson was murdered. Police learned that Scott had met 2 men, Larry Cowell and Donald Damasio, and the 3 were to fly in a private plane to Fargo, North Dakota. Karlin hounded local authorities when she did not hear from her son, first insisting that they not wait the 24 hours they wanted to wait in a missing persons case. She was like, hell no. And she really clashed with police, and now the detectives really appreciate her and respect her. So, frustrated about the slow pace of the investigation, Karlin tracked down the man her son was to meet in Fargo. She told him she knew that he knew what happened to her son because she had traced her son's phone records, and his was the last number her son's phone had called.
Wow.
She scared him so much that she got him to come out to California, wear a wire, and he was able to tape a confession from the 2 men who were in the plane with her son.
Oh my God.
So according to this confession, Damasio, one of the men, broke her son Scott's neck. And then they turned the little prop plane sideways and they threw his body into the ocean somewhere between LA and Catalina Island.
Why?
Oh my God.
So they think it's something drug related, but so Cowell is serving a sentence of 25 years to life and Damasio is doing life with no chance of parole. And I will get back to Cowell after I tell you more about the Thompson case. So basically that's where Karlin starts to be a amazing badass.
So she's already come at me.
Yeah.
I've gone through the worst thing that
Clearly
a
she'll
person
risk
can
her
go
own
through.
life
Yeah.
for...
Exactly.
Wow.
She's incredible. So Bill Lagatuda in 48 Hours, he's the CBS correspondent. I don't know how you say his last name. In his interview with Karlin, he says, that took guts to do that. And she responds, no, it took a mom to do that.
Oh.
Love her.
Oh my God. I love that.
I know. So later, Karlin Campbell began working as an advocate for victims' rights, telling Bill, the Lagatada guy, that she, quote, knows the system sucks.
Wow.
So already having experience dealing with investigations and evidence and the system, she set to work trying to convict the man she believed responsible for Mickey and Trudy's deaths. Oh, and she also became the first woman mayor in her hometown of San Juan Capistrano.
What?
Oh my gosh, she's the best.
She is seriously the best. So the man who was threatening Mickey Thompson and Trudy was a business associate and a man also in the racing world named Michael Goodwin. So in 1978, 10 years before his murder, Thompson had the idea to, like I mentioned before, transform the racing world and bring outdoor racing indoors. So that's when he started wanting to do that. By then, Michael Goodwin was already staging the same kind of stadium roadshow, only with motorcycles. And he called that Supercross. He's like the inventor of Supercross. Motocross was first. I don't really know how Supercross is different, but Goodwin had also been a rock concert promoter and had experience with the racing industry and raced cars himself. He knew Thompson's accomplishments well and was a fan of his. But Michael Goodwin is also described as a loudmouth, a man that never stops talking, obnoxious, unlikable, and arrogant. All things that Mickey Thompson were never described as.
Yikes.
Even Michael Goodwin's lawyers describe him that way. Like, that's part of
And they
later.
get paid to make him look good.
That's part later of their defense of him, basically.
Oh my.
Like, you can't convict someone because he's an asshole, is what they try to say.
Wow.
Because they just know he can't hide how much of an asshole he is.
Yeah, they're like, we're just going to get it out there.
Yeah. So the two decide to go into business together, but the partnership went south almost immediately. And Michael Goodwin says, quote, "It was truly hell from the first day." So Mickey Thompson felt the same way. And according to his sister, quote, "Mickey called me on the phone and he said, 'Goodwin has stolen $50,000 from me.'" And she says, "What?" And he said, "Colleen, I think the guy's a crook." And this is like right after they went into business together.
Oh, no.
So Goodwin denies stealing any of the partnership's money and insists the problem was that Mickey Thompson just wouldn't live up to their deal. This is like so convoluted. It's so complicated, all their business dealings, but basically it was really terrible. Thompson took Goodwin to court, and he claimed that Goodwin had stolen thousands of dollars from their business. Goodwin did not pay anyone he was supposed to, and Thompson started receiving bills and phone calls from event people that they were not being paid. So, like, the people who would bring in all the dirt for the Supercross shows or whatever, like, they were not getting paid. And the deal was that Goodwin would pay for everything.
Yeah.
And so it was just coming back onto Thompson.
You don't want the dirt people mad at you.
Yeah.
Nope.
Not those dirt farmers, honey. Thompson eventually sued Goodwin for total control back of his company and the losses he had obtained. But then Goodwin sued him back. It's just a big
Messy.
battle. So Thompson eventually won a $514,000 judgment against his partner.
Uh-oh.
Goodwin then declared bankruptcy and appealed the ruling, but it dragged through the legal system for 2 more years before Goodwin's appeal was finally shot down. Goodwin never paid the Thompsons any of the money he was judged to give them. So Thompson's family, just remember, how can we remember? Oh, Thompson's actually good. Goodwin is really bad win. If you're having trouble keeping track of the names.
Opposite of good one. Bad one.
Bad win.
That was very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thompson's family and friends say that's when Goodwin, bad win got ugly.
No. You can't do that the rest of the time.
I won't.
I like it.
Okay, so Karlin Campbell, I would call her by her last name, but it just gets so confusing.
Yeah, there's a lot of last names.
And hers is different than Mickey's, so it's confusing. So Karlin Campbell says that her brother told her he was worried that Goodwin would hurt Trudy, like we said. Goodwin denies ever making any threats against Thompson or his wife. But retired cop Bill Watson, who knew both the men, remembered differently. He said once he asked Michael Goodwin how he was doing, and Goodwin replied, "Thompson is killing me, taking everything I got." He said, "I am going to take him out." So as a retired cop...
Don't say that to a cop.
No.
Retired or otherwise.
Did
Or
I say
to anyone.
Bill Watson before?
Yeah.
Bill Wilson, sorry.
God damn it.
Wilson. Okay. I'm going to remember that. Bill Wilson.
Bad
Okay?
win.
You're getting a glimpse into the mind of Eliza.
You're welcome. Okay, so Bill Wilson says, "Come on, Mike, nobody wins that way. He'd be dead and you'd be in prison." And Michael Goodwin said, "No, they won't catch me. I'm too smart for that."
What? No, you're not. You just
You
said that to a
clearly
police
aren't.
officer.
You're clearly so dumb.
Okay, and then someone else reported hearing Michael Goodwin say, "I'm going to kill that son of a bitch. I'm going to kill that motherfucker. I'm going to take out Mickey. I'm too smart to get caught. I'll have him wasted. He'll never see a nickel. I'll kill him first. Mickey doesn't know who he is fucking with. He is fucking dead."
What?
Wow. Jesus Christ.
Goodwin, though, says, I did not tell Bill Wilson or anyone else I was going to take out Mickey Thompson, and I didn't. That's a direct quote from him on 48 Hours if you want to watch it.
Great.
So from the very beginning, Goodwin was always the lead suspect. No one suggested he pulled the trigger. Instead, authorities suspected that he had hired the hitmen that were seen, who got away and left almost no evidence. Under suspicion for 13 years, but never arrested, Goodwin said he was a convenient target and it ruined his entire life.
Aww.
His wife left him. He had almost no money, blah, 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 blah. And this guy, like in the video of him, he's so misogynistic. All he does, which that whole culture is,
of course,
horrifying, where it's just, which women do what you want, but like it's women in bikinis posing next to cars. And that's all that he's commenting on. And it's very, it's just gross to me. I mean, women in bikinis aren't gross, but the men,
no, we
think
understand
they're in control of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They look like a product just like the car does.
Exactly.
Sure.
True. Yep. Then in August 2001, he was arrested and brought in to stand in a lineup. So 2 new witnesses had come forward, and they said that they believed that they saw 2 men in the neighborhood where the Thompsons lived with binoculars looking towards their house in the weeks before their murders. I don't know. The whole timeline is so crazy. So Mark Lilienfeld, the sheriff's detective who inherited the unsolved Thompson case, says the witnesses had come forward at the time of the murder, but not until now did the pieces come together. So that's what doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
So what they saw was 2 men sitting in a car in front of their home. So these 2 witnesses saw the men in front of their home, their own home, and they were just watching the roadway using a pair of binoculars, says Lilienfeld. So in the lineup, witnesses identified one of the men as Goodwin, which Lilienfeld thinks is enough reason to believe that this was a dress rehearsal for the murder. Goodwin, however, denied that he was in a car with a pair of binoculars near the Thompson house and says the witnesses are just lying.
They don't have any motivation to lie.
Yeah. So, quote, the bottom line would be, what legitimate reason would Mr. Goodwin have for being in the neighborhood of this murder 3 or 5 days prior to the murder, asked Lilienfeld. But there was one problem with the detective's theory, and this is where Goodwin's lawyers really fight with this point. Apparently, the people who were seen in the car were not in a position where they could have seen Mickey's house.
Oh, right. I remember that from the segment.
Yeah. So still, the witnesses, like I said, identify Goodwin in the lineup as one of the men they saw in the car. But 12 hours after his arrest, Goodwin was released from the county jail. Authorities decided it was not enough to hold him. But there were a few other things that were suspicious. So a few months after the Thompsons' murder, Goodwin left the country to go to the Caribbean by boat, where police believe he had a rendezvous with the hitmen to pay them off. It is believed that the men who shot Trudy and Mickey possibly live in the Caribbean.
Oh.
I said Caribbean and Caribbean. Take your pick,
You're
honey
covering all
buns.
bases.
Goodwin, of course, denies this being the reason he left the country.
He just denies.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
yes, he does.
just
And let me
everything.
tell you, Karlin hates it and hates him.
I bet.
So when he returned, I think he was gone for like months. When he returned, he was charged in a seemingly unrelated case with filing false loan statements. He was convicted and sent to prison for 30 months. Goodwin, however, says that Karlin just had a vendetta against him and that the evidence was fabricated by her. She just wanted him to be put away for something.
Nothing's ever his fault.
No.
Nope.
Wow.
So 48 Hours covered this case for years and years. They have footage of Goodwin in the lineup, of him in jail, but then getting released, just everything. They really followed it a long time. So in this
Wow, that's
2007 airing, they had all this footage from before when they had talked about the case.
That's very cool.
Goodwin even set up one of 48 Hours cameras in his home, thinking that any day the police would come back to arrest him. So now we're back to 2001. He got arrested in August, stood in the lineup, got let go 12 hours later. Now it's December 17th, 2001, and the 48 Hours camera catches police busting into Goodwin's home and arresting him.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Oh, yeah, and they show it.
Yeah.
But he just says, I just lived under a cloud and I knew it was going to happen any day and I didn't know what day would be the last day of my freedom. And he set up this camera so that it could catch it happen. And ugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in December 2001, when he was rearrested, a new witness had come forward Her name was Catherine Weiss, and she used to work for Goodwin. She says she saw and heard Goodwin directly threaten Mickey Thompson's life. The conversation, she says, took place on a speakerphone. Quote, Michael felt that Mickey had cheated him and couldn't get over that, and he told him, he said, quote, I will take you out and you know I can. Goodwin, however, says the conversation never happened. He says he's not worried if she's the heart of the case against him. This is in 2001 when he's saying this. Why is he not worried? Because Weiss is a convicted felon doing time for writing bad checks, probably with possibly some dealing she had with Goodwin. So Goodwin says she's just looking to get her prison term reduced and to get a piece of the $1 million reward money that Karlin had put up. So they just kept raising the reward money for information. Weiss responds, quote, Michael Goodwin is not a good man. He did this. I know he did this, unquote. So Goodwin's arrested 2001. He is held in jail for years before a trial ever happens. Then all of a sudden, in the first place he was being held, in 2004, the California District Court of Appeal overturned his case on jurisdictional grounds. And so he almost walked out a free man. But then on June 8th, 2004, Goodwin was formally charged with the murders in Pasadena in Los Angeles County. So a different jurisdiction took it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, in October 2006, a Pasadena Superior Court judge ordered Goodwin to stand trial. So he's been in jail for 5 years now, still has not had a trial.
Wow.
And then on January 4th, 2007, a jury took 5 days to deliberate, and all 12 found that Michael Goodwin was guilty of 2 counts of murder and the death of Mickey and Trudy Thompson. And again, 48 Hours has great footage of this trial and interviews with Goodwin, who denies to this day that he had any involvement with the case. Goodwin was sentenced to 2 consecutive life without parole terms, and a subsequent motion for a new trial was denied. So Goodwin and his lawyers wanted a new trial because they say that they never had a chance to present the court with any other possible suspects, to which they claim they have some. And it's like, why didn't you just do that then?
Yes. Come on.
In the 2015 California 2nd District Court of Appeal ruling, although no direct evidence connected Goodwin to the case, so there isn't physical evidence, the array of circumstantial evidence was found to be, quote, overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So I'm almost done, but this just connected me to a book I'm reading right now. It's called Miracle Creek. It is by Angie Kim, and it's basically the story of a whole trial. There's this great direct evidence and circumstantial evidence picture.
Oh, cool.
She would put up in the court. Direct evidence is an eyewitness, audio video recordings of commission of crime, photos of suspect committing crime, documentation of crime by suspect, witness, or accomplice, and then the Holy Grail is a confession. Circumstantial evidence, which is not as reliable and needs more than one category to convict. The smoking gun would be proof of suspect's usage of a weapon, which there was not that in this case for sure. Suspect ownership or possession, opportunity to commit crime, or does he have an alibi, motive to commit crime, threats, prior incidents. So that's kind of where this comes in. Huh. And then special knowledge and interests. So do they have bomb expertise if it's a bomb case or whatever? Huh. But then so I'm just going to read a bit from the book. Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
This lawyer says, what's the difference between those types of evidence? You use the runner example in your seminar, correct? He's going to tell this runner example. Quote, direct evidence of a person running is someone seeing him actually running. Circumstantial evidence is someone seeing him in a running suit and shoes near a track, his face red and sweaty. And then the lawyer says, so the circumstantial evidence could be wrong. The sweaty person could have been planning to run later or could have simply been in a hot car, for example, correct? And he says, yes. I thought that was a really good example of the difference between direct evidence and circumstantial evidence.
For sure, yeah.
And really in this case, all they have is circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
But he's still convicted.
Despite how obvious it may look.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he still has supporters. There's friendsofmichaelgoodwin.blogspot.com where they post about wanting to get him out. They're one of their most recent posts is have you seen Making a Murderer? It's the same thing. They convicted him on not enough. Yeah. They're trying to compare those two cases.
Stop.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so almost my last part. Back to Karlin, our queen. This is just from 2016, so Karlin's still alive. She's still a badass with her husband, but not only did she fight forever and ever to get Goodwin imprisoned, but now that it's been so long since her son was killed, Cowell, the man who was serving 25 to life, has been up for parole a few times. And each time he comes up for parole, she has to go and fight for him to not get out. And so this was in 2016 when he was up for parole again. And her husband drove 5 hours to the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo, where they planned to tell a parole board why they believed Lawrence Cowell should remain behind bars for killing their son Scott in 1982.
Wow.
She said, quote, "What bothers me is if he gets out and hurts somebody else again. I'm going to feel guilty because we didn't do our job to keep him in," unquote.
Wow.
So in 2016, the Campbells, Colleen Campbell and her husband, had been married for 65 years. Oh, I know. And then also in 2001, their 17-year-old grandson, Brian Scott, who was a Corona Del Mar High School senior, died after he fell and hit his head while getting out of a car.
What?
So her son died, her brother was murdered, and her grandson died in like a freak accident.
Jesus Christ.
And Gary Campbell, who's Colleen Campbell's husband, said, quote, "She's a fighter. I try to support her and stay out of her way."
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
the two men who actually pulled the trigger have never been located, but Goodwin is serving life for the murders of the Thompsons, and Colleen still wants the men who were probably paid off to murder them caught.
I mean, it would be really clever to use people from the Caribbean.
Yes.
Like, that's very smart because it's a short flight.
Yeah.
Pre 9/11, you could just sort of fly anywhere.
That's what they said. They said they could have been anywhere in an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's kind of why, like, they wouldn't spend extra time to like pull rings off. Like that's just too risky. Because everything did need to kind of work perfectly, and maybe it had gotten messed up. Like maybe they weren't supposed to shoot them in the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anything about that went down as it was planned.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that's the case of
Holy
Mickey
shit.
Thompson and Trudy Thompson and Colleen Campbell, who's my queen forever.
Wow.
Colleen, our queen?
Colleen, our queen.
Great work, girl. That was amazing.
Thanks.
Wow.
I didn't think I'd be so interested in a race car story, but it's so
Yeah.
much more than that. And
That's
also to
great.
each their own.
Exactly.
All right.
It's me, right?
Is you.
Is you, honey?
Okay.
No, I'm doing this segment.
No, I am. You are.
Okay.
For real.
All right. New Year's Eve, 1983, in Mountain Valley, California. Police were in a high-speed chase with two robbery suspects. In the reenactment, the, quote, suspect is hit by a car, and then he does like a little dance move, and then he rolls over and he jumps back up.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very choreographed. It's super funny.
Exciting.
Yeah, exciting. Officer Kevin Arnold took off after one of the two suspects. Officer Arnold, who looks like he's about 19, he looks so young, says that he's been in car chases or foot chases with burglary suspects before, and that he just chases them and catches them, and they get on the ground, and that's the end of the problem.
He does look like a true baby.
Yeah, he's acting like it happens 10 times a day. He's like, no, real quick. I'm just like,
Usually
hey,
I just chase, then I catch.
like run,
Chasey,
like,
chasey, chase.
do a little cuffing. Then he says, this one, all of a sudden, he's not obeying my commands. No shit, he's running from a cop. He's not a fucking Labrador.
He's like, sit, stay.
Yeah. So the suspect and Arnold struggle for the gun, and Arnold shoots his gun into the air so as to avoid being shot himself. 5 out of 6 shots were fired. Arnold then reached for his second service revolver and fired 5 shots at the suspect. The man survived. Obviously, the guy they're talking about is Michael Wade Mohon.
Does anyone have this song in their head right now?
What?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, we both, oh yes, we both, oh yes, we both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun. Oh yes, we both reach for the gun, for the gun.
Great.
Wow.
Great tie-in.
Okay, so when they check their records, the police discover that Mohon has 5 pages of previous convictions. Stack says he was a known master of disguise, and then they show a mugshot.
Oh my gosh, I took a screenshot of this.
Me too.
Wait, I don't remember.
The stupidest haircut
I got it.
ever in the history of haircuts.
Here we go.
It's like a wig, or I don't know what's happening.
Why don't I remember it? I did not see that.
he was known as a master of disguise.
Was he though? Was he? I do have to say that in the other photos they show, he does look totally different. After his arrest in California, Mohon remained in custody for a year while he awaited trial. He went to physical therapy for the 6 bullet wounds he sustained in the struggle with Arnold.
Damn.
I mean, how many times was 50 Cent shot? Is it 6?
Oh, 50 times?
I think
A cool
it was
50?
either 5 or 7. Was it 50?
Okay. So Richard Olson, a lieutenant with Orange County Police, tells us that Mohon was at therapy one day when he overheard the nurse say when his next appointment was. On January 17th, 1985, the day that he was due back for PT, as they got to the back door, Mohon stumbled, and when he came up, he had a gun. The reenactment,
Oh my God.
very awkward.
Yes.
In general, the whole thing.
Also,
Yeah.
where did he get that gun?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Mohon, still handcuffed, gets the drop on Deputy Finey and has him handcuff himself. Once the deputy was handcuffed, Mohon took his second set of handcuffs off of him and handcuffed the deputy to a fire pipe. The acting is so bad.
It's one of the worst, honestly.
But, I mean, the planning.
The planning,
Pretty
good.
great.
I don't have a problem with this guy at all. Mohon takes off, and his wife Sharon is waiting in the parking lot. I love that. I would 100% break my partner out of jail.
Wait, I forget. What's he in jail for? Murder? Something bad?
I don't remember. Not fugitives.
Yeah, they don't really say.
Yeah, what do they say? 2 suspects. I don't know. They don't say why they were being chased to begin with before he had the interaction with Arnold. They think that Sharon was the one that planted the gun. She was sentenced to 3 years in jail, and she was paroled, and authorities believe that she has met up with her husband. This is all in the episode. 1 week after his escape, Mohon surfaced in Mesa, Arizona, which is weird because that's where the Arizona short stack occurred.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
And became in another high-speed chase with police. And here's an idea for fugitives. Just go the speed limit, and then you're fine. I think Mohon just got off on these high-speed chases.
Yeah.
He's an adrenaline junkie.
He led the police on a chase that lasted for 2 hours, sometimes going over 100 miles an hour. Stack says that a number of units were in pursuit, but still Mohon kept ahead of them. He should have worked for Mickey and Trudy as a race car driver. He missed his calling. Then a helicopter joined the chase. Then another helicopter joined the chase.
Damn.
Mr. Stack says that Mohon did not count on that. He didn't count on 2 helicopters.
You never do.
The chase covered so many miles that 8 different police departments were involved. I read in a 2013 article in Popular Mechanics that although each state gets to determine its policy, high-speed chases happen much less frequently than they did in the 1980s and 1990s. The risk of injury to law enforcement officials, suspects, and civilians aren't worth it. Quote, from the 1980s until early this century, almost 350 people died during police pursuits each year.
Whoa.
More than 30% of those people were innocent bystanders.
That's awful.
Oh, no.
Yep, and 1/3 of all pursuits ended in Iraq. Another statistic is that few people who flee the police are actually violent felons. Instead, they are usually 20-something males with bad driving records. Highway Patrol study from the early 1980s showed that just 5% of those who fled from Highway Patrol officers had been charged with an armed offense previously, and just 0.3 had been convicted. And when chases end badly, taxpayers foot the bill for multi-million-dollar rulings in court, workers' compensation costs from the injured officers, and replacing expensive cruisers. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Finally, there's a barricade set up. Then the chase just sort of comes to an end, and it's really anticlimactic. It's been 2 hours, 8 different police precincts, helicopters, and he just is like, okay, cool.
You got me.
Which is why I feel like he just enjoyed it.
He likes
yeah.
the rush.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. So once again, Mohon was arrested. As he was taken into custody, police were surprised how nice he seemed. He gave a fake name, but he was sort of smirking about it, and he had like a good sense of humor. They were like, what's your name? He was like, Bob Jones. You know,
Yeah.
wink, wink. The next day, as detectives are going through mugshots that came in, one of them recognizes Mohon. However, he's already in transit to the Tempe courthouse, shackled to 7 inmates, 2 of them women. Weird thing to note, but okay.
I know. I waited for more.
Yeah,
and it
I
didn't
know.
matter.
Harvey Woods, the deputy sheriff of Phoenix, Arizona, takes one prisoner inside, leaves the van full of prisoners sitting in the Arizona heat, and he's inside for 10 minutes, and that's a lot of time to leave a bunch of convicts hanging out in a van together.
Yeah.
Of course, within those 10 minutes, Mohon and an accomplice kicked out the window in the van and escaped by running toward the crowded campus of Arizona State University. It was the 2 women who told Woods what happened. Come to find out, the women were due to be released that evening. Mohon Mohon wanted to take Woods' gun and kill him and escape, but the woman pleaded with him not to kill Woods because then they wouldn't be released.
Okay.
Yeah, so he escaped instead. Mohon and Jeffrey Leslie stole a truck from a mechanic and took off. So the show update says, within minutes after this story aired, the FBI in Mobile, Alabama, got a call from a woman who said she recognized Michael and Shannon Mohon.
Yay, it's another
Added to the list.
added to the list.
The caller said that she had seen Mohon and his wife in Mobile, and they were using the assumed name of Steve and Mary Boswick. Then the witness comes on with like an auto-tuned voice and in shadow, but with that hair and those glasses, Mohon exactly like knew immediately who it was.
Yeah.
He was like,
You
cool,
can't
Shirley.
hide.
Thanks, bitch. The witness said at first she didn't know if it was him, but then they showed Sharon and then she knew it was them. Mohon and his wife were living in a trailer right outside of Mobile. The FBI staked out the trailer, and on April 19th, the Mohons were arrested outside of an auto parts store in Pritchard, Alabama. On July 7th, Mohon was returned to Orange County, California, and is in custody awaiting trial. Sharon was sent to a correctional facility in California for violating parole. Mohon was sentenced to 16 years in prison for assault with a deadly weapon and armed robbery. Sharon served time for aiding the escape of a prisoner, and both have been released. Let's see what they're up to.
Yep.
So the caller had hired Mohon to paint her house a few days before watching the show. He had been working as a self-employed painter. Mohon and his wife had been living in a camper in a small community since January 1988. And before that, they lived in the Birmingham area. Doug Marshall, an FBI spokesman in Alabama, said that Mohon and his wife were arrested without incident and that Mohon did not use a pseudonym. Marshall said that agents found several pistols while searching Mohon's camper. Sheriff's Lieutenant Richard J. Olson noted that his department is, quote, thankful for that show because Mohon wouldn't have been arrested if he hadn't been on TV. Mohon just disappeared from the face of the earth after he was arrested in Los Angeles, Olson said, quote, there was no indication of where he was for a long period of time until Unsolved Mysteries did the show on him on April 12th.
Nice.
Orange County investigators traveled to Alabama to bring Mohon back to California, and he was wearing the same T-shirt that he wore when he was captured in Alabama.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I guess this is like lucky
his capture
T-shirt.
tee.
Yeah, his capture tee. One of the detectives said, quote, we felt like we were footsteps behind him in North Carolina once, and I mean literally footsteps, but the search had come to a standstill in the last few years until UM. It gets more interesting, though. In 1991, Michael Wade Mohon won a major court victory when prosecutors dropped charges that he tried to kill the Fountain Valley police officer in 1983, Kevin Arnold. Quote, the reason I escaped was because these charges were on me, Mohon told the LA Times in a telephone interview. Quote, all of this would have been unnecessary if they had not bum-beefed me on this.
Wait, what does that mean?
I don't know.
A bum beefy soda.
I wanted to go to trial because I would have been acquitted. Now they are dropping the charges and trying to sweep it under the carpet. I'm like, sweep what under the carpet? What's happening? July 25th, 1991, Deputy District Attorney Ronald Cafferty asked Orange County Superior Court Judge Everett Dickey to dismiss the charges of attempted murder and assault on a police officer. After a brief discussion with both sides in his chambers, Dickey granted the prosecution's request.
A bum beef is a false charge, or when a guard intentionally sets you up to get a disciplinary report or sent to the hole.
Judge Dickey and Chief Assistant District Attorney Evans wouldn't comment and said it would not be proper to discuss a pending case. Fountain Valley Police Chief Evan Miley, M-I-A-L-I, Miley, said the district attorney's office had told his department that there are, quote, conflicting arguments about the charges. Quote, for whatever reason, there are circumstances only the DA knows about. We try to file the best case possible. However, William Gallagher, Mohon's defense attorney, said the attempted murder and assault charges against Mohon were groundless, the result of an encounter with a police officer who has been in 3 other shootings in the years since. He also contended that his client had been unfairly branded by national TV coverage and in a police training film in which Officer Arnold reenacts his version of the shooting. The instructional tape was used statewide at police academies.
What?
Wow.
Can we find it?
Oh my God. I guess we could, but we would have to physically go to
Right.
the county. Quote, this man has been vilified nationwide, Gallagher said. His reputation runs coast to coast, and it sure makes it rough on the guy who isn't good for it. I've had officers come up to me and say, aren't you representing the person in the tape? Gallagher said that DA Cafferty indicated that he did not have enough evidence to proceed with the assault and attempted murder charges. He added that the prosecutor was very circumspect about his reasons and put the bare minimum on the record. Kind of weird. Gallagher said that there are many contradictions between the statements of Arnold and other officers about what happened during Mohon's arrest on December 31st, 1983. That day, Arnold was investigating the attempted burglary of an apartment in La Colonia Avenue in Fountain Valley. A struggle started in which Mohon was shot 6 times and Arnold suffered a flesh wound in one ear. Mohon spent 41 days in the hospital recovering from the wounds in his chest, buttocks, arm, shin, and finger.
How did he live?
I can't believe
He got him everywhere.
Oh my God. Arnold had claimed that Mohon was standing over him trying to take away his service revolver while he drew a backup weapon and fired 5 rounds in less than 3 seconds.
Whoa.
So there were other statements that disputed whether Arnold had fired the shots as fast as he said he did, because 6 shots in less than 3 seconds is like a lot.
Yeah.
Also, just in that case, I thought that the officer was so smart to try to empty his gun. They must be trained on that. The second one, he didn't have his hand on it.
And if he didn't know about it, that was his chance.
Yeah. So in an LA Times interview, Mohon said that Arnold provoked the fight by striking him twice in the back of the head with a pistol as he was bent over at the waist trying to catch his breath. Mohon said that he then turned around and Arnold struck him in the forehead. Fearing for his life, Mohon said he grabbed Arnold's gun with both hands to keep from getting hit again. He recalled that they wrestled with the weapon until a shot took a chunk out of his little finger.
Ugh.
Then he said Arnold drew a smaller revolver and shot him 5 more times. Quote, I did not do anything to get shot, Mohon said.
Oh my gosh, please.
I was not armed, and he hit me hard. It was self-defense. There was no evidence, period, of me starting to fight with the officer. The thing has been blown way out of proportion.
There's just no way. No, I don't believe that.
However, the district attorney's office, which investigates all officer-involved shootings in the county, concluded that there was no evidence to support criminal charges against the officer. Quote, Arnold acted properly throughout the whole thing. Fountain Valley Chief Miali said, quote, I believe so strongly that I gave him a Medal of Valor last year. Our feeling is that it was a good shooting and he acted within our policy.
Good shooting.
Ugh, that's
Yikes.
problematic.
Wow.
Although it was 7 years after the incident, Miali said that he bestowed the department's highest honor on Arnold because the officer deserved it and that he felt something should have been done sooner. At the time, Mohon's defense attorney, Gallagher, said that there remain many unanswered questions about the truth of Arnold's statements and whether the officer was using department-approved ammunition and had authorization to have a backup weapon. Gallagher said that he had discussed the other shootings involving Arnold with D.A. Cafferty, including one that resulted in the death of Cameron C. Rogers of San Dimas. Rogers was shot 10 times after his car crash during a highway chase. A wrongful death lawsuit was pending against the Fountain Valley Police. Rogers' mother said that he was shot while unarmed and that he was left in the car for more than 4 hours and may have bled to death. And I couldn't find out if the family won the suit, but Kevin Arnold, the police officer, was involved. The court would not release files to grant Gallagher access to Arnold's personnel records to see whether the officer violated department policy during those shootings and other incidents. Gallagher didn't know whether his request for those files had an impact on the decision to dismiss the charges. So essentially he was like, give me everything you have on this guy because he's not on the up and up. Mohon said, quote, they don't want to put that officer on the stand. The DA does not want to have to try to justify his actions. I didn't want the charges dropped. I wanted to go to trial and get an acquittal. Mohon also demanded that the training tape in which Arnold is used as an actor in a recreation of the incident be taken off the shelf and not distributed to police academies anymore. They made a hero out of this guy, quote, Mohon said, and he isn't. Sharon and Michael are still together. She's 70, he's 73, and they live in Arizona. True love, Bonnie and Clyde style. I'm totally fine with it. And Mohon may have been a little correct in his distrust of Officer Kevin Arnold, because it wouldn't be Resolved Mysteries if an update was ever just an update. July 25th, 1995. Moving forward, all this information comes from the LA Times. A former Fountain Valley police officer who once won a Medal of Valor was shot and killed in a parking lot by FBI agents as they tried to arrest him as a suspect in a string of bank robberies.
Oh, no.
Kevin D. Arnold, 34, was shot once in the chest about 2 p.m. at the Portaloa Plaza. The agents had a federal arrest warrant accusing Arnold of robberies in San Diego County.
What?
What is he doing?
One of 3 brothers who dedicated their lives to careers in law enforcement had spiraled downwards since his 1994 conviction for embezzlement, for which he was put under house arrest and fired. Arnold had been a Fountain Valley policeman for 10 years and was a reserve officer before that. The story goes that as two FBI agents approached Arnold outside a McDonald's restaurant, he scuffled with them and then tried to drive away in his car. At least one agent opened fire. Arnold was not armed. He died at Mission Hospital Regional Medical Center and left behind a wife and 4 children.
Oh.
Witnesses said that they saw Arnold, who was shirtless, scuffling with 2 undercover agents, and that he managed to escape briefly before words were exchanged and he was shot. There were conflicting accounts from witnesses and police about how many times Arnold was shot and whether both agents fired their weapons. Quote, "The guy shot him point blank," said one witness. Quote, "He was trying to back the car out. As soon as it happened, I ran inside and I called the police. It was pretty sad." Another witness, Nancy Sandoval, said she saw the incident unfold a few yards from her car. Quote, "All of a sudden, these men were shoving and pushing each other. Then one guy jumped into a blue car and was trying to get the key in the ignition or something." She said that the man managed to start the car and back it up, but the 2 others had their guns pointed at him. "They were saying something to him. I couldn't hear," Sandoval said. "And then I heard what I thought were 2 gunshots. Then the car went forward and crashed into another parked car."
That would be so horrifying to witness.
Raymond Rakitis, president of the Fountain Valley Police Association, who worked with Arnold for 11 years, said, quote, "Oh, Jesus, I saw the car on television, but I never registered it was his car. Jesus, Lord, he was pulling bank robberies. His head must have gone south."
Oh,
Damn.
Radicus remembered the former canine unit officer as a, quote, "damn good officer." Quote, "But I guess the stress got to him. It overloaded his circuits. He started doing stupid things." Arnold had paid back $10,000 to the police union before charges were filed against him. He still owed the rest, but even during the time he was making restitution and expressing regret over embezzling union funds, authorities contend Arnold was strolling into banks, dressed casually and sporting a baseball cap, telling tellers he was armed and demanding they hand over cash. Some of the tellers later identified Arnold from police photographs, which put federal agents on his trail. Arnold had stolen almost $32,000 in 12 robberies between June 1994 and June of 1995.
that's not that much money.
Hey, I was going to say, is this fumbles again?
Well, it's crazy because what happens is when you're that kind of bank robber, you just go in and ask for whatever's in the cash box.
Yeah, you're not going.
Yeah, you're
for
not trying to
everything.
get everybody.
And just like fumbles, it's just coming from desperation,
Yeah.
financial desperation.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's like enough to get by.
So basically, he embezzled this money from the police association, got caught, got fired, but had to pay the money back. A wife and 4 kids.
Oh my God, that's so
Starts
awful.
robbing banks. Yeah, it's such a sad story. John D. Barnett, Arnold's attorney, said several stressful incidents may have contributed to what he called, quote, "the slow unraveling of a good and decent man," including everything from 4 on-duty shootings Arnold was involved in during his career to the death of his longtime police canine, quote, "partner." In the context of this incident, these things may seem unimportant, but each one was just another level of the stress that weighed on him, Barnett said. It's just a horribly sad story. While Kevin Arnold publicly seemed to be bearing well up under the strain, his family soon began seeing indications of psychological unraveling. Quote, "He would frequently wake up with nightmares to the point where he was jumping off the bed and rolling on the floor. A lot of these things he never opened up to anybody about, but I do recall one time we were sitting in the car and he began to cry. He said that you couldn't know what it's like to have your family threatened and to feel threatened every day." Mark Arnold said that he later learned that his brother became convinced he would die on duty, even to the point of planning various scenarios under which he could, quote, "fake his own suicide and make it look accidental." Yeah. While Kevin Arnold was seeing a psychiatrist, the doctor had been provided by the department and had influence over hiring and firing. I don't think he could really open up to someone who could end his career, his brother said.
Oh, that is not good.
They do that to police officers all the time.
That is not good.
Yeah. Quote, "We have a lot of questions about how this happened," said Mark Arnold. "He was trying to flee. He was unarmed, and we feel that he was not a threat to the officers. The family's claim alleges that an FBI agent reached into Kevin Arnold's car and shot him point blank in the chest as he sat in his vehicle. The claim, which is legally required before the family can pursue a federal lawsuit, accuses the FBI of negligence. The family seeks $5 million for the man's wife, Kathleen Arnold, and $1 million each for 4 children, Jillian, Daniel, Kendra, and Caitlin. His brother Mark said, "I have no doubt he was leading the FBI away from the house to protect his family. He had been helping his son mow the grass earlier. He came out of his house, saw the FBI surveillance, got his keys, and left the area."
Oh my gosh. gosh.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
And then there's, I guess it's a website called Law Enforcement Today. And this officer, Jim McNeff, wrote an article entitled, quote, "My partner was a bank robber." And he discusses Arnold's shooting with Mohon as a pivotal moment. And he was a rookie. He was really young when it happened. So McNeff feels as though that contributed to his eventual demise. So McNeff and Arnold were both in the police union, and Arnold was the president and McNeff was the vice president. McNeff found out about Arnold's embezzlement and sort of struggled with whether or not to tell. Yeah. McNeff says that he struggled with whether or not to report Arnold initially. He had a conflict between professional obligations and personal desires. Ultimately, he needed to handle the circumstances as though they would become front page news, because in the end, they did. He also says that he and some fellow officers attended Arnold's funeral, even though the chief of police at the time didn't want them to. Quote, "My identity is not the uniform I wear. I attended the funeral in a suit." But it's so sad. It's just like he gives talks now on like warning signs, police officers suffering from PTSD. He feels awful that he didn't do anything or recognize the signs. Apparently Arnold was an alcoholic and he didn't want to talk to him about it. Not a lot of police officers know what to do when they see a fellow police
especially
officer
back then, you
suffering
wouldn't
that way.
have.
So, yep, that's the update on Mohon. They're in Arizona. They're living their best lives.
Wow.
But Kevin
I did
Arnold's
not
wife.
expect Arnold to be such a big part of it.
Me either. And that's why I was kind of like, I don't want to click this.
Yeah.
And then it was like, police officers shot by FBI agents after robbing 12 banks. Like, what the fuck?
There's just always so much with
I
these
know.
cases.
I know. It's crazy.
You did a good job. Crazy. Love it.
Okay,
Oh, here we go.
it's time.
It is
It's
time.
Stop.
For-
Stop. Stop.
Oh, here he comes. Look out. Oh, what is that smell? It's time for a mysterious legend. It's been a while.
It has been.
It has.
It's been a minute, and we got a big one now.
Yeah.
Literally.
A really big one. So it's Bigfoot, guys.
Yeah.
And the segment begins in Pikes Peak, Colorado, which Stack says is 100,000 acres of dense wilderness with lots of animals roaming these woods. Which I think he's like, there's a lot of animals here, guys.
Scientifically proven animals.
Like bears.
Yeah. So they kind of just jump right in with a couple of people who have had encounters and some quotes from them. And everyone's names are spelled really weirdly. There's Jeremy Swisher, Jeremy with an A.
Jeremy.
Jeremy. And Dan, I think they were pronouncing it Messias. And they both basically describe what they've seen, which is the classic Bigfoot image we all know. Tall, long limbs, ape-like and hairy, off in the distance.
Always
Basically,
Off in the
tall,
distance.
dark, and handsome,
Always.
and far away.
Yeah. So Stack is wearing the puffy coat from episode 17 again.
Watch out. It's outdoor stack.
The return of the the return of the puffy coat. He says for hundreds of years, ape-like creatures have been seen across the western United States. The quote Indians called them Sasquatch. Today they are known by the name Bigfoot. Until recently, many share the prevailing belief that these sightings are either hoaxes or misidentification of common animals.
Oh my gosh.
So much shade.
I hope it's not that, but it is also that, right?
Stack says there's new physical evidence substantiating the eyewitness reports, suggesting that perhaps, just perhaps, there really is a Bigfoot. March 27th, 1987, a local resident named Dan Messias, his son, finds tracks in the newly fallen snow. Dan didn't recognize the tracks, and he determined it was something strange and related to the tracks they had seen around their home recently. The next night, quote, on a hunch, he and his son stay up late. So in the reenactment, they're watching TV, and he just keeps getting up and looking out the window. I don't know. I guess based on seeing the tracks before, he was kind of like waiting for something to happen. He says that he sees two creatures running away. One is 5'6"-ish, and one is maybe 6'2". He says that other than the hair covering their bodies, they look just like human beings. So
people.
So it was maybe people.
it was dark outside.
Also, there's more than one?
Oh my God.
I thought there was only one Bigfoot.
So then they have a reenactment of them taking pictures of the tracks they found the next morning. And they do insert an actual photo of one of the tracks that they saw.
What do you think, in your professional opinion?
Well, it's this one. I'll show it to you.
Okay. Let me see. Let me put my spectacles on.
Anything?
That looks
It looks like a bear or like a cougar.
dog.
Or just like anything. So the larger prints are about a foot long and the smaller are about 8 inches.
That's not a
Which
lot.
I think are like the size of normal human feet. I don't know. So then they have Dr. Von Langman from Louisiana State University holding a plastic model of a big old foot that would supposedly match the prints found by the Messiases. He tells us that it doesn't match the prints of any other known animals and seems like a primate foot. Dan Messias' sighting is featured in several newspapers. 12 other witnesses come forward after reading the papers with similar encounters.
Of course they did.
So the next scene shows a group of hikers rounding a big rock. They see what looks like a 6-foot-tall man coming toward them through the bushes. So this reenactment is pretty great because you just see like that like TV Bigfoot image of he has the kind of like pointy head with a little spurt of hair up top. That's what they see. They just see the little like kind of pointy head poking up over the bushes, like coming towards them. Jeremy with an A says it had turned around and started to chase them. He says it basically looked like, quote, a fairly good-sized man. Quote, the arms might have been a little longer than normal. The run was more or less like that of an athlete. So they get really scared and they run towards home. Stack says for years, eyewitnesses have claimed they've seen a creature like Bigfoot, and some of the witnesses want to remain anonymous. I was like, what? Are they afraid Bigfoot will seek retribution? And I actually said this out loud as I was watching it. And my husband goes, no, they're afraid of you right now. They're afraid of public ridicule.
Oh, wow.
Astute.
And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. They didn't want to look like idiots on television. So then they have an anonymous witness in shadow saying that he saw some type of creature.
Shadow. We haven't seen an in shadow person since that one.
People who are literally afraid they're going to get murdered.
Yes.
I
If
can't.
you really believe that you saw Bigfoot, then why would you be ashamed to say it? If enough people all came together and said it.
That's true.
Yeah, true. This was like a big group of people.
Yeah.
So the guy who's in shadow says, quote, the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't like anything I've ever seen before. So then there's another reenactment. And I think they did kind of a medium job on this one.
Wow, how generous of you.
The scene was dimly lit and they filmed it like through a dirty car windshield. So it was kind of like,
Okay.
you couldn't quite see what was going on.
Clever,
so it
clever.
kind of disguised the fact that it's a guy in a monkey suit. The only slight glimpse of that is that like the bottoms of his feet kind of looked like shiny plastic. But other than that, it looked pretty good. So Shadow Guy says, quote, I had a fear in me. I got out of the truck.
What?
Why?
Why?
And it passed me. I got behind it clear enough distance because I wasn't about to go tackle it, he says while LOLing. But it seemed to have the figure of a human being, except it had hair everywhere on its body. So, I don't know.
Like,
Stack.
why would they be in shadow? Do they think Bigfoot has a TV and they'll see their face? Why?
They're afraid of
Public
us.
ridicule.
Oh, they really are?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Jeremy with an A clearly isn't afraid. but-
No, yeah, some people are loud and proud about it.
Yeah. It's like alien abduction or all of the other things that totally happen to people all of the time.
Yeah, but this is different.
For them to be afraid of public ridicule makes me feel like maybe they really did see something.
Maybe.
Because otherwise they're like, I know this is crazy.
Yeah, like
and
otherwise
I'm
they just wouldn't
embarrassed.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't believe in ghosts except for that one time I saw ghosts.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I
No?
didn't. Okay.
Yeah. So Stack says in early August 1988, a cabin was broken into by a large animal.
A
bear.
They show the cabin. Well, they show the cabin and you just hear the sounds of things being smashed inside.
An angry bear.
Like it literally sounds like someone with a baseball bat just smashing everything.
A hungry bear.
A real hungry bear.
A hungry mama.
When the owner rushed to the back porch, the intruder had vanished. The door was damaged, but in the reenactment, do you remember?
No.
It is like mangled. It is
so
destroyed.
long since I watched this.
I know, it's been so
We were
long.
different people back then.
Yeah.
I thought there might be a Bigfoot back then. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so there's just shit everywhere. It looks like this whatever animal, like fucking Tasmanian deviled its way around the
Maybe
cabin.
it was a Tasmanian devil.
Maybe, but they weren't in Tasmania. They were in Colorado.
Damn it.
The next day, 2 boys find the mess and they see just giant tufts of hair stuck in the screen door
yes, I
everywhere.
do remember
But it's
this.
like long. It's like 5 inches long.
Yes.
Ew.
And the boys just keep going, wow, and grabbing at it with their little mitten
They
hands.
are rubbing those grubbies.
They are, but like with mittens. Stack says they sent the hair to a diagnostic lab at University of California, San Francisco.
Oh.
Dr. Gerald, another gross spelling, Jerold.
No. Gerald.
Harold.
Lowenstein. He says basically that they've tested the hair and it only reacts with hominoids: human, chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan, and gibbon. He says he's eliminated all of those except human and chimpanzee, so it's some large animal closely related to human and chimpanzee or one of those. And it's hard to see how...
So it could be human.
Yeah. Or chimpanzee.
Yeah.
How many
Those are the
chimpanzees
ones
are
he
there
hasn't
in
ruled out.
Colorado
I
currently
know.
in the wild, though? You have to ask yourself.
Yeah, so...
Probably a lot. I'm not a zoologist.
Chimpanzee?
I'm kidding.
Okay, I was concerned. I was like, I know you're from the East Coast, but
Really,
honey.
So he also says it's hard to see how they could have escaped detection over thousands of years.
You think?
I would agree. Then we have the biological artist,
You can't see all the air
Quote.
quotes, but boy, they are heavy.
There are so many air quotes.
Carol Miracle, creates a composite from the 4 eyewitnesses. Stack says the composite showed a, quote, huge, hairy, humanoid creature that closely resembled other descriptions of Bigfoot. Stack asks, is it possible that this legendary creature exists? Stack says maybe it's a hoax, or it could be possible there's a bunch of Bigfoots. And then I put in parentheses, big feet. Roaming around Colorado and the Pacific Northwest. Quote, until hard physical evidence appears, skeptics will continue to doubt the validity of these sightings, but skeptics have occasionally been wrong. And he's smirking again, so it's Smirky Stack.
I love a smirky stack.
And that's the end of the segment.
What's your update, though? How many big feet are out there?
There was not an update on this
I
one.
know.
There, I do have an update. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Cut as much of this as you want.
I'm keeping all of this.
So I'm going to note right now that this was not the only time did a Bigfoot segment.
Oh.
They did another one that was more Pacific Northwest focused in 1994.
Oh, one of our listeners, Megan, went for a run. She lives right outside of where they
Yes.
shot it. Her and another listener, but Megan is a badass, and she went for a run in those mountains. And she said that Bigfoot probably stayed there because the sunrise is so beautiful.
Oh.
And she took a picture, and it's on Facebook.
He's a romantic.
Yeah, he's a romantic. But she did mention that she was surprised that it wasn't filmed in the Pacific Northwest because she had thought
Yeah.
that's where Bigfoot hung out.
Yeah, I was
Totally.
surprised about that too.
So there's 2 big feet, and that's why.
Girl, there's many.
Oh, good for them.
You wait. So there's no update on any of the people from this segment. I couldn't find anything about any of them. So we'll just do a quick and dirty history of
Sasquatch?
Sasquatch.
Quick, dirty, and hairy.
Dirty Harry. That's what the movie was based on.
Okay.
Serious
we can get
business.
through
You
this.
can do it, girl. I know you
we
can.
are so medium with you on this.
So today we're talking about Bigfoot, which is mostly Pacific Northwest specific. He's a tall, very large, ape-like bipedal creature with gigantic feet who lurks around forests and stuff. This segment is specifically about Bigfoot, but there are varying versions of Bigfoot all over the world, basically everywhere there are humans. So let's talk about all of Bigfoot's cousins.
Oh, a family reunion, as you might say.
Ancestry.com with Bigfoot. I
Yes.
love it.
Sasquatch, mostly a name used in the Pacific Northwest, said to be derived from Native American lore, interchangeable with Bigfoot. The Yeti. The Yeti is known to stalk regions around the Himalayas, sometimes known as the Abominable Snowman, and the Yeti is described as looking very much like Sasquatch, but in some
But with white
versions
hair.
he's white.
That's true. I never connected those two.
The skunk ape.
No.
Shockingly, this gross name refers to the Bigfoot of Florida and the southern U.S.
You guys, you make it so easy. Stop.
So he's basically the same thing as all the other guys, but he's super stinky, and he is allegedly hanging out in the methane-rich bogs.
Well,
Ew.
Of course he'd be stinky because it's very damp down there. So.
Yeah. And all
His
the
hair
methane.
gets all wet. And
The Yowie. So this is the Australian Bigfoot.
yeah.
Sometimes he's just like Bigfoot. Sometimes he's more like a primitive human living in the outback.
Yui?
Nice.
The issue with Yowie is that because Australia is not attached to other continents, we know that the Yowie could not have evolved from other footies seen around the world.
Footies. Oh, I love it.
So
Unless
he's
they
kind of
can
his own.
swim or take a boat.
Oh, maybe they can swim.
Oh, maybe they can yacht. Who knows?
I mean, those big feet work
A
like
yachty yeti.
paddles. Then
They're
there's-
bipedal.
I would have to say that if something like that existed, it would be Australia because Australia is filled with shit like that.
Oh, true.
Yeah, crazy creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
True.
I'll give the Yowie to Australia, maybe.
You can have it.
So then we have the Almas, which is the Mongolian Bigfoot. These guys are believed to be a bit more human than ape, which goes hand in hand with many of the, quote, wild man tales in Asia and Eastern Europe. There's kind of like wild man stories all over. Some believe them to be an earlier human ancestor that somehow survived extinction. Then we have the Grassman. Did you know that Ohio has its very own Bigfoot?
What?
We call it the Grass Man.
I'm the grass man.
Yeah, it does, and it's the Grassman. Apparently, Ohio is kind of like a perfect environment for Bigfoot
ecosphere?
relatives to thrive in. People have been seeing Grassmans
No.
for a few hundred years. The Wendigo. It's a weirdly
gonna
not.
paint my
Are you
nails.
really painting your nails right now?
Oh my God! Can we get through Bigfoot?
I'm listening.
We don't care.
I'm just going to paint my nails. Go ahead.
Go
The
ahead.
Wendigo. It's a weirdly not so friendly Canadian Bigfoot. A big hairy guy from First Nations peoples legend. This one isn't necessarily an animal, though. He can be a creature that transforms into a human and has bad intentions.
So for Canada, that's just like a tall, mean person.
Or he's kind of like a spirit sometimes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very different.
Oh, you can be possessed by him?
He can just shapeshift, kind of.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't
All
know.
right, I'm into it.
I mean, I didn't deep dive each version of
I
Bigfoot.
can't believe
I'm
that.
sorry. The orange pendek. This one's
Eliza is truly painting her nails right now.
sorry. Oh my God. So this one's a little out there in the Bigfoot family. He's from Sumatra and he's not really big.
So he's just a redhead from Sumatra. Okay, that's fair.
He's the redheaded stepchild. He's only a few feet tall, but kind of similar. So he's kind of like a pygmy Bigfoot.
No.
I also read that he's kind of like a hobbit. So he's ape-like and bipedal and being...
A hobbit and also not real creature.
But as far as like what he looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're doing great. You're doing great,
You're
honey.
doing so good.
We love you.
The Mapingari. He lives in the South American jungles. Some accounts describe him similarly to Bigfoot, but some are much weirder, describing him with huge claws, backwards feet, and a nasty smell.
Ew,
Backwards feet.
And-
I like that.
And a mouth on his belly.
Yes.
Well, that's just efficient.
That's that ayahuasca, honey. That's that ayahuasca.
And then the Yeren. He's similar to the Mongolian Almas, but lives in the forests of China. He's also called the Chinese wild man and has been talked about for a really, really long time. Stay tuned for why this guy might be the realest, illest OG of all the foots.
Oh, damn.
So back to Bigfoot / Sasquatch, because that's what we're discussing today. There are a few American reports of Bigfoot-type creatures as early as the 1800s. In Western Canada, I don't know how to pronounce this.
It's okay.
Stales, S-T-S apostrophe A-I-L-E-S. First Nation have the Saskets, the supposed origin of the word Sasquatch. However, the modern U.S. concept of Bigfoot can be traced quite directly to the Humboldt Times stories in 1958. In 1958, Gerald Crew discovers and casts large footprints. Journalist Andrew Gonzoli of the Humboldt Times highlighted a letter from him about the discoveries. Quote, "Maybe we have a relative of the abominable snowman of the Himalayas," Gonzoli jokingly wrote in his column alongside the letter. Later, Gonzoli said that he thought it, quote, made a good Sunday morning story, but readers devoured the idea. In response, Scanzoli and fellow Humboldt Times journalist Betty Allen published follow-up articles about the footprints, reporting the name loggers had given to this so-called creature who left the tracks, Bigfoot.
Clever.
So that's where the name comes from.
It just gained a lot of traction in 1958. Like, people didn't have anything better to be dealing with, like social justice issues or
No, they were ignoring all of that.
Literally not.
pre-war also, though.
Yeah. In 1967, Roger Patterson, a Bigfoot hunter, and Bob Gimlin filmed a home movie in Six Rivers Forest of Bigfoot. It's the only footage of Bigfoot that has not been completely debunked. So we'll show that one on the Instagram. You guys know what I'm talking about,
Yes,
right?
it's infamous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The, like, really grainy.
It's grainy, but I will say,
Oh,
out of all of them...
KB's convinced.
No, I mean, I get why people believe that it might be real.
I guess I need to see it again.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Meldrum, an expert in ape movement, believes the footage is real. He says you can see the muscle movements, which would suggest that it's not a person in a costume. So that's what I was kind of looking at after I read that. I was like, it's true. It does not look like this thing that's like hanging off of someone.
Right.
It looks like muscles you can see moving. He says the ankles in particular are key indicators that it's not a man. The film would be the most important piece of cryptozoological evidence of all time. In the 80s, Bigfoot took on a different personality. He became associated with...
Started doing like a ton of coke. Driving a Trans Am.
Really
I mean,
into
everyone
partying.
did. No, but he started to become associated with like environmentalism and like
Oh, that's
kind
true.
of became a friendly image
Yeah.
and was used for like wilderness preservation stuff.
They couldn't choose any actual real animal to go with
To
wilderness.
actually care about.
Yeah.
I know, apparently not.
Preserve these woods because maybe there's a Bigfoot.
We still have that.
Yeah.
Like, so many of our wilderness things have Bigfoot on
Yeah,
them.
it's really true. I didn't really think about it until I read this. One example of this is the 1987 movie Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh my God.
Which portrayed Bigfoot as a friendly, misunderstood creature in need of protection from John Lithgow and his family.
Oh my God. I cried through that movie when
Yeah.
John Lithgow punches him in the end and tells him to leave.
I need to watch it
It's like
again.
a
I was
true
so
Call of the Wild situation.
Oh my God.
yeah, I
I
was
was
so little when I watched
howling.
that, but that's exactly what I think of when I think of Bigfoot. Like every time I think of Harry and the
I just think
Hendersons.
of that scene. I saw it in the theaters. Why? I was too young.
You were too young to know the horrors of Bigfoot.
The sadness, the
You
true
were.
isolation and loneliness of Bigfoot, guys.
In the 1990s, there were various researchers studying alleged evidence of Bigfoot. One of them was Jeffrey Meldrum, who I mentioned earlier, who would later write a book called Sasquatch, Legend Meets Science. Dr. Wolf Henner Fehrenbach, retired zoologist, worked at the Oregon Regional Primate Research Center, believes and has done analysis on over 700 footprints. He says the toe alignment is similar to that of humans. He believes they're 15.6-inch prints and the creature weighs up to 2,000 pounds.
2,000 pounds?
Jeez.
Fehrenbach says,
How much does an elephant weigh?
I think a lot more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's like a ton.
Oh, it's a ton.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fehrenbach says, quote, I've gotten close enough to smell him.
Okay.
Bigfoot,
Get a room, Fehrenbach.
Bigfoot is commonly referenced as smelling bad. Some people say
Bigfoot.
he smells like smegma.
What's smegma?
Don't make me describe it. Do you not know either? Oh
Is that
my
something
God.
like, yeah, I do. I think
So-
I do.
It's like,
I think your husband actually explained this to me, maybe.
why?
Either this or something else. Oh, dingleberries.
Oh, okay. I know what dingleberries are. Does dingleberries smell like schmegma?
No, it's worse than that. Okay.
Ew.
Smegma is,
I can't believe now we're really going to get our explicit rating.
it's like a substance that collects in like skin folds, but very specifically in like
Peepees.
foreskin. Foreskin.
Okay, we're done.
It's disgusting.
That's what Sasquatch has, foreskin.
He does.
He's a giant
Just
foreskin.
full body. That's why he
and that's why he smells so bad.
Ew, I cannot.
I wish there wasn't a term for that, but there is. Okay, in 2003, two
Hashtag
sons.
not all schmegma.
Oh my God.
Hashtag not all foreskin, really.
Oh, sorry.
You have to cut that out. I can't. Oh my God.
Leave it. Why?
In 2003, two sons of Ray L. Wallace come forward to admit that their dad... Oh my God. We have to get through this segment.
No. We're like a 7th grade slumber party right now. You guys stop it.
I'm not talking about smegma anymore.
Okay.
We're moving on. You are making this so difficult.
Is it?
Oh, no. They've fucking lost it. I'm the one doing this fucking segment, and they've lost it.
Okay.
They're gone. I can't.
We're back. Oh, I haven't even had anything to drink.
I know. What is happening?
Bigfoot's like his
thought
own.
I could.
Jesus
I
Christ.
thought I could drink bubbly water through this.
It has nothing to do with smegma.
Okay.
From here on out,
Okay.
no mentions of smegma.
All right, if you say so.
In 2003, two sons of Ray L. Wallace come forward to admit that their dad basically pranked everyone and made footprints with a pair of carved wooden feet.
Because he had nothing better to do.
Was he involved in the video?
No.
Okay.
No, these are very separate
We
things.
don't know this guy yet. We haven't known him, right?
No.
Yeah.
This is the only time I'm mentioning him.
Okay.
One of his sons, Michael, says this wasn't a well-planned plot or anything. It's weird because it was just a joke, but then it took on such a life of its own that even now we can't stop it. In 2008, two researchers from Atlanta purchased a frozen Bigfoot carcass from Rick Dyer.
What?
Yes. He had a thing called the Georgia Bigfoot Tour. He was the owner, and Matthew Witten, his business partner. The carcass turned out to be a rubber gorilla suit.
Duh.
And he let a guy purchase it to
They
prove him
purchased
wrong?
it for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No.
Because they thought it was real or because they wanted to call him out?
No, they thought it was real. And then it ended up being a rubber suit.
Oh my God. People with money are so stupid.
There have been attempts at DNA analysis for Bigfoot. Wolf Fehrenbach has been unable to identify Bigfoot DNA, but as of 2006, he has over 15 samples of DNA that he's been unable to identify as any other animal.
Wait.
Wow.
So he has 15 samples of DNA that he can identify as any known animal? Is that what he's saying?
In 2012, a veterinarian/researcher claimed to have sequenced Sasquatch DNA. His claim is that they descended from human females who had mated with unknown hominid males.
Oh.
Yep, it's always the woman's fault.
2014, a team of researchers at Oxford University, led by an Oxford professor of human genetics, conducted genetic analysis from reported Sasquatch hair samples, but unfortunately found that the samples belonged to dogs, bears, and humans.
I mean, I can't believe we can't end the backlog, but people are spending time on this. Are you
That is what makes me mad.
Yeah.
And like the
No, it
people
actually
who
is.
spend time on this probably just wouldn't care enough because this is something they care a lot about for whatever reason. But like, come on.
Yeah,
The
I know.
amount of time and money.
I know, it's insane. So most primatologists do not believe the existence of Bigfoot is likely. Skeptics such as David J. Daegling say even if you have 1 million pieces of evidence, if all the evidence is inconclusive, you can't count it all up to make something conclusive.
Yeah, that's a very true statement,
Yeah.
David Dangling.
Believers say it's unscientific to discount the mountain of evidence over the years. Footprint casts, recorded calls, unidentified DNA from hair, and first-person accounts.
Recorded calls. Bigfoot's like, what up?
Yeah, I know. I was like, 911 calls? Like, what kind of...
Bigfoot's like, I am so scary. I
so smelly.
stink.
As of March 2019, the best places to see Bigfoot are Washington, where there's been 2,032 sightings, California, where there's been 1,697, Pennsylvania, 1,340, Michigan, 1,131, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Texas, in that order. Those are all like the top sighting places.
Okay.
So Oregon and, I mean, Washington's at the top, but it's not like specifically Pacific Northwest anymore, apparently.
Wow.
So sadly, despite growing up in Bigfoot land and wanting to believe, and maybe just believing a tiny little bit in the bottom of my heart, I don't really think Bigfoot is real. But guess what?
What?
He used to be.
Ooh.
So this is all very recent information. I think this article was from like last year or the year before. More than 1 million years ago, an ape as big as a polar bear lived in South Asia until it went extinct 300,000 years ago. Scientists first learned of Gigantopithecus in 1935 when Ralph von Koenigswald, a German paleoanthropologist, went to a pharmacy in Hong Kong and found an unusually large primate molar for sale. Since then, researchers have collected hundreds of Gigantopithecus teeth and several jaws in China, Vietnam, and India.
Cool.
Based on these fossils, it appears Gigantopithecus is closely related to modern orangutans and Civipithecus, an ape that lived in Asia about 12 to 8 million years ago. Because only teeth have been found, it's hard to tell what this animal was like, but based on comparisons with gorillas and other modern apes, researchers estimate Gigantopithecus stood more than 10 feet tall and weighed 1,200 pounds. So at most, a gorilla weighs 400 pounds, just to give you an idea. Given their size, they probably lived on the ground, walking on their fists like modern orangutans. They only were able to find teeth, but thankfully teeth have a lot to say about like an animal's life because of their diet. Mm-hmm. So the teeth of Gigantopithecus also provide clues as to why the ape disappeared. So I actually deleted multiple paragraphs of why, but they basically, by studying the teeth and what the landscape was like at the time, can come up with multiple reasons that the species would have become extinct. So you can read about it if you want to. I'm not going to tell you all about it here. There are several organizations dedicated to the research and investigation of Bigfoot sightings in the U.S. The oldest and largest is the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or BFRO. Oh. So I'm not even going to tell you why. BFRO is like active today. You can go to their site. There's like a bunch of stuff on there. The overall mission is
To find Bigfoot?
Yeah, they're just trying to resolve the mystery surrounding the phenomenon. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't know. So people are still seeing him. You can go on YouTube. There's like multiple videos of people. Oh my gosh, there were so many weird things. I should have linked to one of them.
No one knows. But
I just find it, I mean, if it's supposedly a species and not just like one, why have we never seen one up close? Why have we never been able to verify his existence?
Why have we never found a dead one?
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And with
It's
cell
just a rubber
phone
suit.
video now, like everyone, like I get it, in the 50s and 60s, you were not carrying a camera around all the time.
Yeah. But now
everyone has
there's
one.
no excuse
And yeah.
to not document your Bigfoot sighting.
Also, like, think about how much land has been developed over the last few decades.
So his
would he-
habitat is shrinking.
Exactly. It would be like deer. He would just be hanging out in your backyard, in your garden,
Yeah.
and you'd be chasing
And there's
him
nothing
away.
else big that we can't find.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
just, so that's it.
That was great. I enjoyed it. I really did.
That's all I got about Biggie.
I get people like it. It's fine. I've just never been into it, so
Yeah.
it was cool to hear all that stuff.
We will link to many of the
Yeah.
things that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the YouTube videos are probably pretty funny.
Oh my God. There was one of a guy that would like be the age of like our dads. He was like crying about his Bigfoot experience.
Because he was so scared or so.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. People believe.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
All right.
The end.
Good work, KV.
Can't wait to do Bigfoot again in 5 years.
Oh my God. I'm not doing it.
Not it.
All right. Tell me about George J. Stein.
Okay.
Please.
The man of a million bank accounts.
I'm just going to say, don't get too excited about this one because there's nothing interesting involved except a man and some money.
Maybe don't lead in with that.
It's fine. I don't want people to get too excited. We're given what Stat gives us.
That's okay because there's 5 segments in this episode and they're
Yeah,
all
they're
pretty...
going to be fine.
Yes.
Everyone's fine. All right. So on November 12th, 1936, at a bank located in Ripon, Wisconsin, a man possibly named George J. Stein opened up a savings account for $120. So that is $2,348 in today's money.
Okay.
He opened up the savings account with no social security number on file and did not leave a home address. Between 1936 and 1952, a man named George J. Stein opened dozens of bank accounts, primarily in savings and loans in the Midwest. However, he never returned to these banks to claim his money, which in 1988 totaled at $130,000.
That's a lot.
Go get your money, honey.
Yeah.
How can you when you don't even know who George J. Stein is?
Yeah, so this is a lost heirs because they're looking for his family. So in addition to 5 accounts in Wisconsin, Stein also held 3 savings accounts in Indiana, 2 in Minnesota, and 1 in Iowa, and 1 in Illinois. One bank in Texas thinks that maybe Stein was a depositor there, but this remains unconfirmed.
Can you do that now? Can you just open an account without any information attached?
No. This is 1930s, baby.
1930s.
No way. When I changed my name when I got married, they wouldn't even let me like do a joint account with him until we had marriage certificate stuff. And so one researcher, there's kind of two different thoughts about who George J. Stein was. The first one is that a man named Tom Becker, who was looking into deposits made by Stein in Indianapolis, he found what he thought was a real address for one of the accounts, and that was 505 Washington Street. The address was for a company that made hats, gloves, and other accessories. The investigator, or researcher, Becker, was able to find a physical description of Stein, and this description matched that of a traveling salesman whose real name was Ralph Barnett. Barnett's sales territories matched the places where Stein's accounts were created. Becker believes that Barnett probably died suddenly while on the road due to the fact that he never withdrew money from the accounts. So that's Becker's whole theory. Becker cares so much about this that he's investigating these accounts and deposits.
Does he hope he's related to him?
Seriously, what is the point of this at all?
Seriously, Robert Stagg? Why?
People are literally missing and dead, and we are worried about this. Okay,
We're dinking around with bank accounts.
We are dinking.
Dinky-donkin'.
So Becker's like, it's maybe this guy, Ralph Barnett, but he never withdrew his money, so maybe he died. That's literally all. Okay.
Because he's starved? I don't understand how those are connected.
He suddenly died because he never withdrew
heart
his
attack.
money.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was really not following that.
But, like, why would he need to use a fake name? Why can't he just be Ralph Barnett? And why is he depositing it all where we'll post a picture, literally the only image will have
look at the map
of this case. 1, 2, 3,
I think
4, 5,
that
6, 7,
that's why
8,
they
9.
think he's a salesman.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Cool. Another researcher, Frances Skoll, who I like much better, believes Stein may have had sinister motives. So in her research, because apparently more than one person cares about this, she discovered that Stein had written a return address on one of his deposit envelopes. The name written with the address was Ed Fay. While looking through newspaper archives, Skoll discovered that a man named Ed Fay had robbed a post office in Superior, Wisconsin with his gang.
Oh.
And that they do this as a reenactment. In October of 1903, Fay and his gang had stolen over $15,000 in stamps and cash from the post office.
Huh.
But this is pretty far before he makes his first deposit.
I remember that about the stealing stamps.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Do you just sell them to other people?
Sell them on the black market for a discount.
Fay was arrested shortly after the robbery. However, he escaped from jail in 1904 and was never seen again. So that would make sense why he would need to use a fake name. But why is he not depositing under George J. Stein until 1936 when he escaped in 1904?
Good question.
Gee, thanks. Okay. Skoll, the researcher, discovered that Ed Fay's age would have matched the age of Stein. She believes that Fay changed his name to Stein in order to cover up his crimes and still be able to access his money, even though he never accessed any of his money. So if you would like to collect on Stein's money, the heirs must first prove that they are related to him, which seems truly impossible since we have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
And then they must produce handwriting samples that match his known handwriting.
What?
The government's like,
Oh,
we're just going to keep this. We're keeping this money.
So, although this is in the episode, several possible heirs have come forward, none of them could prove their relationship to Stein as required in order to access the account.
Davy
Like,
Peaches
Davy
is like,
Peaches.
hey, I'm pretty sure I'm related.
That's literally all. There is, I cannot tell you how little information there is about this
Yeah, well,
case.
that's a toughie.
That's
Well,
it.
yeah, as we discussed, if
time
you can't
ago.
even find a photo of someone and all you find is a map with some dots, you're pretty much fucked
Yeah,
in terms
that's it.
of segment follow-up. So
So if you're upset because you were expecting a real big doozy on this one, I'm real sorry.
she sounds super sorry, doesn't she?
All right.
Oh, so you're truly done.
I'm done.
Okay.
All right. So, as loves to do to us, the saddest segment for last. This is the unexplained death of Joyce McLain, who was 16 years old. So,
That Farrah Fawcett hair. Love it.
for sure. Stack starts us off by setting the scene 8 years prior in East Millinocket, Maine. It was a small town of 2,600. 2,600.
That is so few people.
Super safe and secure, a close-knit community. But all of this changed August 8th, 1980. On that day, Joyce McLain, a spirited and promising 16-year-old, was brutally murdered in the woods behind the high school soccer field. Joyce was the kind of teenager to make a family or hometown proud. She had a little sister, Wendy. She played in school orchestra and composed her own music. She was an honor student, a cheerleader, and a student body officer. She was popular and well-loved. Her mom goes on to describe kind of how this was like a changing time for her. Like she could really see that she was starting to grow up. Then Friday, August 8th, 1980, Joyce went jogging at 7:30 in the evening. Stack says that day was the last time Joyce was seen alive. Joyce had a route that took her around the town and behind Skank High School.
Okay.
I had to phonetically write it out. Schenck. Skank. The last time she was seen is turning the corner, going down to the softball and soccer field where she usually did laps. Records say this was between 7:45 and 8 in the evening. 2 days later, Peter Larley, one of the volunteers searching for Joyce, found her body in the woods behind the high school. Peter Larley said, "I saw Joyce and she wasn't moving, and her body looked like it had been beaten." So the reenactment shows him at this point screaming. "Joyce," he said, "I knew that she wasn't alive. I started screaming her name, and after that I turned and ran home to call the police. I know it to be a big part in my life that really hurt me. I never expected what happened at all." And like, some of the comments I read and stuff were kind of like pointing fingers at this guy, but
Really?
because of his word choice, I guess. But I think what he's saying is it scarred him.
Yeah.
He's saying it really hurt me because it changed him. Like,
Yeah.
it was an awful thing to see. Stack says the last time Joyce was seen, she was jogging towards the soccer field, and there was a softball tournament that had 300 to 500 people behind the field where she would have been jogging, so they would have been playing softball until dusk that night. Stack explains that the field was a popular hangout, and one theory is that local boys were drinking there. So at this point in the reenactment, they show a bunch of like backwoods, mullet-wearing douche bros drinking beer. So it's possible that when they saw Joyce approaching, they began harassing her. People, quote, close to the case think the boys could have led her into the woods against her will, and that some of the boys in the group tormented her and tied her up, intending to attack her sexually, and instead they murdered her. And this is all what Stack's saying in the episode.
Wow.
The second theory is that the attackers may have been day laborers at the local paper mill. The mill had just taken on 300 non-local workers. So then they have her sister, Wendy. She says before she was murdered, kids would all just walk around the streets until 6 p.m., and after she was murdered, it all changed. The parents were like super on everybody, like, what are you doing? Where are you going? So Stack says on the 8-year anniversary of Joyce's death, the town held a candlelight memorial service. They wanted to keep her memory alive and keep alive the hope that her murderer can be found. Her mother, Pam, says, "I believe Joyce's murder is solvable, and I believe out there someone has just the tiniest bit of information. They may not even know it. They could come forward and it could be solved." So that's basically the end of the segment. So after this episode, I'll kind of go into a timeline of everything that happened.
Okay.
So April 7th, 1981, the year after her death, the community comes together as the investigation drags on. A committee for Joyce is established to help raise money to find the killer. Jump to February 20th, 1986. No arrests have been made. Joyce's mother is frustrated at the lack of progress being made in the case and writes a letter asking the state attorney general to take over the case. October 1988. Justice for Joyce, a new committee, is formed to help increase publicity. February 1989 is when UM covers Joyce's story. A petition was created by, I would assume, by the committee, and 6,000 signatures are collected. Keep in mind the town was only 2,600.
And this was before you could just like click something.
Right.
So they made this petition asking Unsolved Mysteries to cover Joyce's case.
Oh my God.
I wonder if this is like the first thing like that petition.
Where a
I
community.
think
Where a
so.
community makes a petition, and then I wonder about one since then.
Yeah,
too.
I think other than that, it was like individuals writing in.
Yeah.
But this one was like...
or
a
them going to
whole-
the town and saying, "What do you have?"
Yeah.
Well,
So it just goes to show, like, the whole town came together to be like, we can't find another way to do this. 49 new leads come of the national attention the story receives for investigators to follow up on. August 8th, 2005, Detective Dave Preble, the 5th primary detective assigned to the case, said police are looking at a, quote, good dozen or so suspects, but still don't feel as if they have the evidence to charge anyone.
A dozen in 2005? Oh my gosh.
And it's just going to show this keeps changing hands,
Sure.
making it
So
more
it's
and
the
more
fifth,
difficult
yeah.
for it to be solved.
It's like playing telephone.
It's awful. August 2008, Joyce's mother, Pamela McLain, and Justice for Joyce raised $20,000 to pay for Joyce's body to be exhumed and a new autopsy performed.
Oh my God.
September 2008, Maine State Police renew the investigation of Joyce's murder. So this is like triggered by the new autopsy. April 13th, 2009, People magazine covers the case, bringing it to the public eye nationally again. October 2009, Joyce's grave is vandalized. There's like an angel on it that was smashed. There was a brown smiley face smudged on the picture frame of her.
This is also our 3rd grave vandalization.
Yeah.
Cannot believe that is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joyce's mother says that she felt the vandalism was an attempt to, quote, shut her up. The grave was vandalized again a year later. December 8th, 2009, Philip Scott Fournier is named a suspect in Joyce's death by the U.S. District Judge John Woodcock when Fournier was sentenced to 6.5 years in federal prison for possession of child pornography. August 2010, Pamela McLain seeks the help of the FBI. August 8th, 2012, the 32nd anniversary of Joyce's death comes around, and the community learns that the FBI will not intervene. So, I don't know why, but August 2013, Joyce's mother wants to take Joyce's case to the TV show Cold Justice.
Yes. I fucking love that show.
I know. Allison and I love that show.
Oh my God,
Those
I
women are
cry.
badasses.
Every episode.
But Deputy Attorney General William Stokes refuses to share investigative material with them.
Fuck that guy.
He was worried about chain of custody and things like that. But
I'm sorry. It's been 30, how many years? Let Cold Justice take a crack at it because they'll fucking solve it. Those
Yep.
women are amazing.
I know, they're amazing. If you haven't watched that show, oh my God, watch
Is it on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay.
It is just,
It's so good. I love those women. So, January 6, 2015, Fournier is released from prison after serving his sentence for child pornography. March 4th, 2016, Fournier is arrested and charged with the murder of Joyce McLain. Okay, we have our arrest. So now we are going to jump way back in the timeline and fill in all the things that the public didn't know about.
whoa, I love this.
So, okay, a day or two before Joyce goes missing, Philip Scott Fournier, he goes by Scott, who's 19 years old, and his stepbrother Sammy were walking by the McLain home and stopped in to visit. Sammy worked with Joyce's sister Wendy that summer. Joyce was home and came into contact with the two. Afterward, Fournier, quote, expressed interest in Joyce to Sammy. Around midday on August 8th, Fournier had talked to his stepfather, Mr. Powers, about the McLains, mentioning that the mother, Pam, had made pizza for high school kids. Fournier told his stepfather that he was going to, quote, quit smoking and start jogging. So this was later determined to be a reference to Joyce because she was constantly jogging around town.
No.
August 8th, 1980, the last day Joyce is seen alive. She'd gone out jogging to prepare for soccer season. Joyce is seen this night at 7:55 p.m. near the dugout fields by a few town residents. They recall her wearing pink shorts and having her hair tied up. The same night, two residents see Philip Scott Fournier, actually known as Scott, as well as Leroy Sperrin at the high school around 6:30 p.m. headed toward the Little League field. Another resident also saw Fournier and Sperrin at the high school. He observed them leave the high school and head toward the Little League field sometime after 7, but before 7:30, and he said that the two were drinking whiskey from a bottle when he saw them. By approximately 8:15 p.m., Sperrin was seen back at the high school alone. He was pacing, talking to himself, and acting very strangely.
What?
Fournier was seen approximately 8:45 by Officer James Jamo and was with Sperrin at the time. At 9 p.m., another town resident sees Fournier running on the sidewalk carrying a whiskey bottle. She said another person was running 8 to 10 feet behind him, but she couldn't see who it was because it was dark. August 9th, 1980, Philip Scott Fournier steals and crashes a fuel truck from an East Millinocket business around 3 a.m. He hits another vehicle and fractures his skull, among other injuries, including breaking his leg. He ends up being in a coma for 8 to 10 days. Upon his release from the hospital, an interview was attempted. After he was released, he was admitted into a substance abuse program and wasn't returned to the East Millinocket area until Christmas of 1980. So, there's noted to be like heavy storms and a lot of rain the night of and the night after Joyce's disappearance.
Okay.
Which will play in.
Okay.
Townspeople searched for Joyce on August 9th, including Peter Larley, the guy that did end up finding her. Search is described as being not particularly organized. August 10th, 1980, Joyce's body is found around 6 a.m. by Peter Larley in a power line clearing behind the athletic fields. She is found positioned mostly on her stomach, but somewhat on her left side, with the right side of her face facing upward. She was naked except for socks and sneakers. Mm. And in many of the articles that I read, they called her partially clothed, but
socks
she was
and
naked.
sneakers is naked.
Mm-hmm. Her hands were bound behind her back, and there was a large jagged wound on the back of her head.
Oh my God.
I hate this. Her head was resting on a rock somewhat under some brush and was very close to a larger rock. The large rock had powder and small pieces of ceramic material on top, which were later identified as pieces of an insulator. Officers identified that Joyce was on her period because she had a tampon in place. But they did not share this info with the public, knowing that it would be a crucial detail in identifying the perpetrator. The poles for the power lines had insulators on them, and apparently it was not unusual to find insulators on the ground near the poles. They were heavy with what appears to be a metal shank and ceramic top with circular ridges. The same day, August 10th, MSP Trooper McClellan and his certified canine Ben were called to search the location. Ben first alerted on an area in the ground with an impression of an insulator under the pole closest to Joyce's body. Ben then moved to a rock wall nearby where articles of Joyce's clothing were found under some rocks. Ben then alerted to another area where more of her clothing was found. Ben then alerted to a partially broken insulator thrown in the bushes along the end of the rock wall. Ben was brought back the next day and alerted to all of the same spots as the day before, and this time the police collected the insulator. They also collected a rock from the scene and some pieces of insulator fragments. So, May 5th, 1981, Fournier was asked by law enforcement to go to the area that Joyce's body was found. He led the detective to the area, down the pole line, and past the rock wall. He told Detective Graves at this time that he walked into the pole line along when it was dark, but not real dark. He tripped over a dead body. He indicated about where he thought the body was, and it was the approximate location that Joyce's body was found.
So he was saying that he was walking through this random power line area and he tripped over Joyce's dead body and then
Didn't tell anyone about
didn't
it.
tell anybody?
He said the girl was lying down. He said, quote, she had been beat to hell and her head was a mess. This is very accurate. He also said that he and Leroy Sparron had been fighting over a knife that night, and Sparron threatened to use the knife against a police officer. May 12th, 1981, in the early afternoon, Fournier was at home. He was pacing and upset. He asked his father to give him a ride to Pastor Thomas's parsonage. Fournier's stepdad asked him if he wanted him to go with him, and he said no. So Mr. Powers told Fournier to call for a ride when he was ready to be picked up. So he just drops him off at the parsonage. Pastor Thomas stated that when Fournier met with him, he was upset and looked like he'd been crying. He told Pastor Thomas, quote, I murdered Joyce McLain.
What?
Oh,
This is in 1981.
my God.
He told the pastor that he hit Joyce with a pole with a knob on it. So, the insulator that the canine alerted to. Pastor Thomas stated he believed that the defendant hit Joyce on the head. In response to a question asked by the pastor, Fournier stated that he had not had sex with Joyce because, quote, it was the wrong time of the month.
He got pissed.
Oh my God.
And he's now telling us that he knows she was on her period.
Yep.
Past,
The fuck? Why did it take so long?
oh girl, not even barely into it. Pastor Thomas then told Fournier that he did not believe him. Fournier asked what he would need to do to prove that he was telling the truth, and Pastor Thomas said that he would believe him if he repeated the confession to his mother, which Fournier agreed to do. So this was a technique that I believe he would use to ensure that he wasn't like breaking the confidentiality.
So wait, if you're a priest and someone tells you they murdered someone, you can't tell anybody? It's
No,
like a
you
doctor?
can.
Okay.
Things are different state to state, and I
Okay.
looked into a bunch of that, which we can't get into now, but there is a legal term for it. So he was being super smart because he was making sure that that was said to somebody else.
Okay.
So about 40 to 60 minutes after Fournier's stepdad had dropped him off, Pastor Thomas called Fournier's mom, Anita, and stepdad, Wayne, back to the parsonage, letting them know that Scott had something to tell them. When they arrived, Fournier said, quote, "Mama, I killed Joyce." His mom, of course, questioned him, and he said, quote, "Mama, I know what I've done. I've murdered Joyce McLain." Fournier then repeated it several times and said that he was very sorry and he didn't mean to do it. After this, Pastor Thomas took Fournier to the Bangor Police Department where Detective Graves and Clement interviewed him.
I do not understand what's going on here.
So, take a deep breath because obviously this is not where the story ends. During the interview with the detectives, Fournier said the following, quote, "He had a feeling 3 guys killed Joyce. Joyce kicked him in the leg, and he picked up an insulator from the ground and hit her with it once. He knew he shouldn't have done it. Someone with blonde hair cut Joyce's face on the left side about 2 inches. So there had been a 3-inch abrasion on the left side of her face. So again, he is giving details of the scene of the crime. Joyce had been tied with a rope. Toward the end of the interview, he said that one of the people, quote, had regular sex with Joyce. The medical examiner, this is much later, did not believe that intercourse had occurred during the autopsy, but there was indication that anal sex may have been involved. Fournier also made statements about cars and other people. At the end of the interview, Fournier was not arrested. Afterward, he told Pastor Thomas, who believed he was confessing, that law enforcement did not believe him and that he must have said something, quote, wrong. Pastor Thomas then drove Fournier back to town and returned him to his parents. When he walked in, his mom was very surprised and happy to see him. His stepdad was, quote, dumbfounded. When Fournier's mom asked him what happened, he just grinned and said he didn't do it.
Ew.
Oh my God. I don't understand this.
It's so weird. May 15th, 1981, Fournier is interviewed by the Maine State Police, Detective Karlin, for about 4 hours over 2 sessions. During the first session, Fournier told Karen that he woke up from a coma and was told he'd been injured in an accident. He also said he was told he was a suspect in Joyce McLain's death. He said he couldn't remember why he stole the oil truck. He remembered visiting Joyce and Wendy the day before Joyce's death. He commented that Joyce was cute and had a nice smile. He recalled that on August 8th, he was with Leroy Sparron and a few other people at a party. He said he left the party alone and went to the pole line where he tripped over a female body. His hand fell against her arm, which was cold. Her head was off to one side, and he did not recognize her. So, again, giving details. He stated she was wearing sneakers and socks, and her feet were twisted, which they were. Fournier said that after this, he ran away down the pole line, tripped and fell, and the next thing he remembered was the oil truck accident. When asked why he had given different versions of the events to law enforcement, he said that he didn't know why he told them what he did, except that he thought it was part of his memory. But then he knew it wasn't part of his memory. He admitted that he had made up a prior statement about seeing someone else from the town arguing with Joyce, and admitted that he had not seen that person that night at all. He then said that he had been arguing with Joyce.
Oh my God. What
Fournier,
the fuck?
Fournier also mentioned that he was with Leroy Sparron that night and that he had, quote, conned a knife from Sparron because Sparron was acting weird and talking about stabbing Officer Jamo. Fournier stated that he took the knife before he left the party, and that's also important. When asked why he implicated himself to other officers, Fournier stated that he had imagined it and probably thought he did, but now knows that he didn't do it because it was not in him to do that sort of thing. He told Officer Karen that he no longer believed he had killed Joyce.
Oh, okay. You're good.
He then repeated the story of stumbling upon Joyce that night, again stating several accurate descriptions of the state her body was found in. He said once again that at one time he thought he killed Joyce, but now he didn't think he did because it was, quote, just not him. He also said there were parts of the night he just did not remember. During the second interview, Karen told Fournier he didn't think he was being accurate about the insulator. When asked why he told officers he had struck Joyce with the insulator, he said, quote, because I did. He stated... This guy, I don't understand.
What is wrong with these police officers?
Seriously, what is wrong with them? Are their ears closed?
What is wrong with everybody?
They're just like, la la la, I don't want to hear it.
It's so complicated. He stated that he struck Joyce with the insulator once and hit her on the left side of the face. When asked what he did with the insulator, he said he didn't want to talk about it.
Okay.
When asked why he took off in the oil truck, he stated that he was trying to kill himself. Officer
That
Karen,
I believe.
Mm-hmm. Officer Karen suggested that perhaps he got in the accident to conceal his bloody clothing, and Fournier said he didn't see any blood on the body. When pressed again about the insulator, Fournier said again that he did not want to talk about it. Repeated questioning about what happened on the pole line was all responded to with the story that Fournier had tripped over her body and had contact with her arm. He stated again that he once thought he had killed her, but his memory had come to conclude that he had not. He indicated that there was a lot he couldn't remember either because of his drinking or the skull fracture. Detective Karen urged Fournier to tell the truth, and Fournier stated that he was not ready to tell the complete truth, but, quote, maybe sometime in the future he would be.
Oh my God. He's not a toddler. What the fuck is happening here?
I don't know. The detective noted that all while stating that he didn't remember things, he was giving factual details
Yes,
that ended up being very accurate.
He was doing a lot of remembering for not remembering anything.
Yeah.
After the May 15th interview, Fournier was not arrested.
Oh my God.
So then we go back through the timeline all the way through to the arrest at 2016. At this point, we find information that takes us back in the timeline. Again, this is a piece of information that came out immediately after the arrest. In June of 1989, Fournier was hired as a janitor at Husson College. A man named John DeRoche was his supervisor there, but did not meet Fournier until his first night on the job. When DeRoche arrived to work that night, Fournier was sitting in the break room. DeRoche asked him who he was, and the defendant said he was Scott Fournier. DeRoche asked him where he was from, and he said Millinocket. DeRoche associated the town with the Joyce McLain murder and asked Fournier if he knew about it, just making conversation.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Fournier replied that he knew all about it as he had killed her.
What?
DeRoche was taken aback and asked him how he killed her. He replied that he hit her in the back of the head with a glass insulator. The rest of the crew began arriving, so DeRoche stopped asking questions. A little bit later, DeRoche asked Fournier why he hadn't been arrested. Fournier replied that he had been interviewed 20 or more times and that he'd, quote, beat all the interviews.
No, he didn't. He didn't beat any interview. He gave so much information.
But
What's happening?
the
It's
police
insane.
are still not arresting him.
Mr. DeRoche immediately reported all of this to Husson Security. However, Fournier continued to work there, and no one from law enforcement came to interview Mr. DeRoche.
What?
When DeRoche heard about the arrest, so many years later, in 2016, he contacted police and reported the conversation from 1989. I want to show you a picture of DeRoche because he's a sweetie.
Oh, yeah, that's a sweetie.
So,
This is fucking outrageous.
This guy is the luckiest
outrageous.
man of all time.
Yeah, because he's surrounded by the stupidest people of all time.
Yeah.
but at the same time, he kept switching his story and throwing in so many other things. And then the accident plays into it too. January 22nd, 2018, the first day of the murder trial, Justice Anne Murray visits several sites in East Millinocket related to the case. The path Joyce was believed to have jogged on and where her body was found. So this ended up being a jury-waived trial,
Okay.
which I looked into, and I think that means that Fournier himself
Yes.
waived,
Once just a judge.
which, okay.
I'm sorry. No rational jury would find that person innocent. He basically said he did it a billion different ways.
Yeah.
So he's hoping that he can trick just one more person, one more
Yeah.
idiot,
Okay, so
Rather
that's
than
the logic.
12
rather than
people.
12 people.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm so angry.
and this is another reason this was difficult to pin down. The crazy part of this case is that there was never any forensic evidence tying Fournier or anyone else to the murder. There were 2 hairs found on Joyce that were submitted for DNA testing, but came back excluding Joyce, Fournier, and 5 others. Many of the things Fournier described seeing at the scene were extremely accurate. Fournier's statement about the knife became crucial because he brought this info to law enforcement, and Joyce's bra and clothing had been cut off of her. Her clothing was cut to make the ligatures that tied her hands. So it was like
Fucking asshole.
very obviously the material from her shorts. During the trial, a large point of the defense was the oil truck crash and Fournier's skull fracture and coma. Honestly, if this hadn't happened, the defense would not have had a leg to stand on.
Yeah, but they're
It's-
trying to say he had false memory syndrome or whatever.
So they brought in a board-certified neuropsychologist who gave expert testimony regarding the effect of traumatic brain injury on memory. He stated that Fournier had had a traumatic brain injury due to the oil truck crash. People who suffer this type of injury can have retrograde amnesia. Memories of the events that occurred closest to the time of the traumatic event are more impaired than events that occurred earlier. Dr. Riley concluded that memories during that time can be partial, inconsistent, or inaccurate. A person with retrograde amnesia attempts to fill in the gaps in memory with pieces of memory, dreams, and things that he or she was told. This is why the defense had anything to go on. While all of this is true, by 9 months after the accident, Fournier would not have still been in a post-traumatic confused state,
doesn't
which
last
is when he made
forever.
all of the statements. Dr. Riley said the way to test whether a memory is confabulated or filled in is to compare memory against known information. Family members all noted that Fournier was not himself when he returned home after his recuperation, but that he was cooperative, peaceful, and loving, which Riley said does not reflect the emotional state of someone still suffering the effects of head trauma. Fournier was able to become employed in 1989 and remained employed for a year without any noted deficiencies.
Aside from telling everyone he murdered someone.
Yeah. Just that one little thing.
That little deficiency.
After all this knowledge, a careful review of the defendant's statements to law enforcement did not reflect a person who was, quote, filling in gaps in memory. DeRoche's statements were found to be clear, believable, and compelling. The defense questioned his reliability, but the court gave his statements great weight. He had the appropriate reaction to Fournier's statements and asked questions about why he had not been arrested, then immediately reported the admission to the security department and contacted law enforcement after hearing of the arrest. A fair amount of evidence was submitted during the trial about alternative suspects, and while all of that was considered carefully, none of it raised a reasonable doubt as to the guilt of Fournier. February 5th, 2018, the 2-week-long trial ends.
Oh my God, this is so recent.
Yeah. February 22nd, 2018, Justice Murray announces that Philip Scott Fournier, 57, of East Millinocket, is guilty of the brutal killing of Joyce McLain.
Wow.
So Fournier's attorney, Jeffrey Silverstein, said that his client is, quote, quite upset and disappointed in Murray's decision. Quote, we had put a lot of work into making a presentation that we thought addressed the state's case squarely on all points. Silverstein said outside the courthouse, quote, her decision today, finding him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, stands in stark contrast to 35 years worth of police who diligently worked this case.
Yes,
who
it
knew
does.
all of the facts that she knew, with the exception of Mr. DeRoche, who felt that there wasn't even probable cause for arrest.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's the exact problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the whole case.
Way to highlight the issue.
Silverstein argued in his closing that the prosecution did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Fournier was guilty of murder. The defense claimed that Fournier's statements were unreliable because he made them after suffering traumatic brain injury. April 27, 2018, Fournier is sentenced to 45 years for the crime. Pamela, Joyce's mother, said, while I spent most of those 38 years seeking justice for Joyce, Scott spent them using his own words, outsmarting the state police.
Outsmarting. Oh my God. He is not
It
a
wasn't
genius.
hard.
These people didn't fucking care.
That's very
There
weird.
is no excuse. Like, what is their active excuse?
I really don't know.
How could they possibly reason their way out of someone saying they did it over and over and over again?
That is why they didn't give it to cold justice.
Yes,
They
because
would have
it
been
has to be.
Cold Justice would have been like, oh, they would have looked at the file for 5 minutes and been like, this guy
Yes.
confessed 7 times. It's this guy, the
Yes.
end. It wouldn't even warranted like part of an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's
And
outrageous.
I wonder, too, if this was one of those things that, like, really the whole town knew, or if it was really, like, kept...
Was this Fournier kid like popular, well liked?
Not if he was drinking whiskey in the middle of a softball
Like,
field.
why would the town protect him if they did know?
Yeah. I don't think they all knew. I
Yeah.
think they had
also
little
like
details.
protect him? He was admitting to it.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
you can't get like if he's admitting and the police aren't doing anything. Why, as someone in the town, would you ever try to take action? It's clear that the police are totally inept. Like
Yeah.
what? I would love to know what their response is to this situation.
I know.
Aside from the fact that it changed hands, which isn't an excuse.
Yeah.
How many times do you need to be told that someone committed a murder before you finally arrest them for it?
And before it changed hands, that
Yes.
happened before it even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enraging.
Inexcusable.
Oh my
It
gosh.
really is.
So Pamela also said, Scott told police that Joyce kicked him as he was attacking her. I hope he feels that kick for the rest of his life.
Yes.
Pamela was elated by the ruling. Quote, it took 37 and a half years, and you'll never see a happier mother than this one right here, right now. Which is very sad because, of course, she would be happier if her daughter was still alive.
Yes. Like to have the bar lowered that much.
Yes, exactly.
McLain said, quote, how do we feel? We're here and this is the end. We have a lot of backing and we made it the last mile, McLain added, saying she always knew her daughter's killer would be caught but found the trial traumatic. Quote, I wasn't prepared for the end. I wasn't prepared for the court time. I just wasn't prepared for this, McLain said.
How could you be?
Speaking of her daughter, McLain said, we made it, girl. We made it. We done this together.
Oh, my God.
December 6, 2018, People announces that it will feature the case on its investigation program on the Discovery Channel. December 12th, 2018, Fournier appeals his conviction with the Maine Supreme Judicial Court. February 22nd, 2019, the Maine Supreme Judicial Court unanimously upheld the murder conviction of Philip Scott Fournier in the death of Joyce McLain.
You think? He's like, I would like to have this overturned, but I absolutely fucking killed her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Seriously.
really?
I know.
Get the hell out of here. Ugh. Oh my God. I'm so angry.
Yeah, and it's just crazy that, like, DeRoche's statement was kind of, like, the main thing that, like, sealed it after all of that.
That's
Which, like,
what
thank
did
God
it.
he came forward.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it. I got to read the entire judge's judgment. Yeah. And it was so interesting. All the things they have to, like, outline and...
We can link to it if it's a or if
I
it's a
have it.
PDF. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Good job, girl.
Wow. So that's it?
Yep.
God, talk about justice delayed. I would love to know how that entire police force and everyone involved could possibly
Explain
justify
that.
and explain their
Yes.
actions.
I know.
He clearly realized throughout it that, oh, I'm messing up. When I say I didn't do it, but I just stumbled over a body, that'll be my excuse for knowing all these details.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, DNA existed, but people didn't really know about it.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
even wonder if he was like, oh, I need to say that I touched her arm.
Yeah, he really...
know,
Or maybe
leaned
the
in on
police
that.
were like, we know you were at the scene, because they do that a lot to get people to confess. So they'll say, we know you were there.
And then he's
We
like, "I
found
tripped
evidence that you
over
were
it."
there.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I tripped over her in the dark, and then I ran. But first I saw all these intricate fucking details.
Yeah. Like the fact that he did end up having a severe injury to his head and being in that coma.
That's the best thing that
Saved
ever
him
happened to him.
decades
Yep.
of being in
He got to
prison.
live fucking 37 years.
Yep.
I wonder if he had died in that accident, if they would have ever figured out that it was him.
I bet if he would have died, they would have figured out it was him. Because what about his accomplice? Where was that other guy? That
I
guy would have
know.
come forward
Yeah.
eventually. If he knew that Fournier was dead, then Leroy would have come out.
Yeah.
Like, because he would have
Yeah,
had
he
anything
would
to
have been like,
lose.
"This guy did
So I
it."
bet if he
Yeah.
died, they would have known who murdered her right away.
I wonder what's happening with that guy now.
I know.
I wanted to know, yeah.
I know. This was so
Did he
long
ever
that I
come
didn't-
forward or?
I don't think so, because it wasn't mentioned in any of the court stuff. I still totally think that probably other people were around.
Oh, you don't think it was just him? You think it
Well,
was
and
like
yeah,
a gang?
And that
Maybe they're
even
like-
says that in the judgment,
Yeah.
that like a lot of evidence kind of leads them to believe that, but they don't have enough on it to look into anybody else, and none of it like detracts from him.
Wow.
Yuck. What a
That was
monster.
amazing.
Isn't that insane?
That was outraging and
because
amazing.
the update on UM just says like so and so was arrested.
That's
I
how
was
it
like-
always is.
I was like, oh, probably like a year or two later.
It's like, update, this person went to jail. 2 sentences, and then 4 days later, you're like, you haven't slept.
Oh my God.
That was awesome. That
Yeah.
was
It's
incredible.
insane.
Thank
and I'm
you.
sorry
for,
that we're ending on such a sad note.
No, it wasn't very interesting.
Yeah.
But at least the right person.
At least justice was finally
and
served.
I forgot to look up how old he is now, but he'll be in prison till he dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not getting out.
I'm fine with that.
So
Well, yeah, we're thinking about her family.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Great work, girl.
thank you.
If you're looking for an in-depth, detailed, academic analysis of the past, devoid of any comedy or entertainment value presented by an educated historian with a PhD, this isn't the show for you. Hi, I'm Tawny Plattis, a professional voiceover actor who gives a very casual, very Southern Californian, and hopefully very comedic retelling of the sexy, scandalous, and salacious stories from history your teacher probably left out on my podcast, The Dirty Bits. Catch the show on tawnyvoice.com or anywhere podcasts are found. Chat soon, Lovebug.
Okay. Sharzy, share and feel.
Oh, right.
Review. Share.
You seem to have something written down, Katie.
I do.
Do it, girl.
A little late to the game, as always. That's my MO. But The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina We finally started it. It's not at all what I expected, which is why I didn't really care to start it right away.
What is that? Is that with the girl from
Clarissa
Mad Men?
Explains It All.
No, it's with
That's
the little
the
girl
90s,
from Mad Men, right?
Sabrina.
Gosh.
They are both based off of the same Archie comics, which I was obsessed with Archie comics
know
when I was
that.
a child,
didn't
so I'm
either.
actually surprised. I think I maybe only read like one Sabrina ever, but it's just not what you expect. It's so much darker.
dark.
And
Oh, really?
oh, yes, girl.
I haven't
It's-
watched, but I heard it's real
I
dark.
mean, it's really, really dark and like spooky, and it's really, really good.
Cool.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I like the actress who
Yeah,
was
she's
in
great.
Mad Men. She's great.
Kiernan Shipka.
That's her name?
Yeah, she's really great. It's a good cast. It's fun.
Okay.
You'll like it.
All right.
You go.
Okay, my Sharesy Feelsy is an oldie, one that I read many, many years ago, but I think that listeners will like it. This book is called Jane, a Murder, and it's written by Maggie Nelson. I met Maggie Nelson. She's an amazing writer. I recommend all of her books. Jane, I'll just read you the synopsis. In Jane, Maggie Nelson explores the life of her aunt, long assumed to be the third victim in a series of brutal rape murders near the University of Michigan in the late 1960s. Born a few years later, Nelson never met her mother's sister, though she always felt drawn to her in ways she couldn't quite explain. At the age of 23, the same age as Jane in the time of her murder, Nelson experienced a disturbing series of recurring dreams that deepened her interest in her aunt's life and death. Her exploration of the case began in earnest soon afterward when she discovered Jane's diary and a loose sheaf of journal pages. As she learned more about who Jane had been, Nelson decided to finish the story her aunt never lived to tell.
Cool.
It's so good.
I've read it. It's great. You gave it to me.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I think it should make a resurgence and everybody should read it.
Cool. I have 2 recommendations. The first is Generation Y just did an episode on the death of Matrice Richardson. So it's episode 323. Generation Y, man. Over 320 episodes.
Whoa.
I've never listened to one. Is that bad?
They're great. They're one of the first true crime podcasts. They started podcasting a really long time ago. It's just amazing to me that they have over 300 episodes.
That's crazy.
So Matrice Richardson was a woman who, I'm not going to get into it, but she basically was behaving strangely, was taken in by the police, was released by the police, and then was later found dead. It's a mystery as to what happened to her. There's a lot of missing time. There's a lot of kind of cover-up behavior on the part of the police department. It's just it's sad. It's such a sad story of just if one person would have given a shit sort of situation.
God.
Yeah. And then the other thing, which was recommended to me by one of our listeners on Facebook, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember who it was, and I searched and I couldn't find it. But I watched My Mother's Sins, the Diane Downs episode on 2020 about the woman who killed her children. It is really good. And Anne Rule wrote a book called Small Sacrifices about the story, and it's chilling to watch the video of this woman who murdered her children.
Wait, is she the one that shoots him in the car?
Yes. Yeah. And I think I just watched it on Amazon or Hulu. It's like very easy to access. But yeah, I recommend it just because you're looking at a total fucking psychopath. And the person that they interview most is her daughter, who didn't know that her mother was Diane Downs until she was a lot older because
I've
she was
always
adopted
wondered
out.
that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just watch it. Yeah.
Love it. All right.
Okay.
What are we talking about next, Epi? Eliza I have a wanted segment, The Tunneling Burglars. Karlin has.
The Unexplained. Crystal Merzlock and Thomas Sawyer.
And Alison, you have.
Perman Gilbert.
Unexplained Death of Perman Gilbert. You guys, Karlin is very ill. Like we said, our P.O. Box is 14005, Portland, Oregon, 97293. You could send us ideas or letters for us to read on listener short stacks there. And you could also contact us at resolvedmysteriespodcast.com, or our email is resolvedmysteriespodcast@gmail.com. And then, of course, follow us on Instagram at re_solvedmysteries, Twitter and Facebook at resolvethepod. We'll post lots of pictures on Instagram, and those go up on Twitter Twitter and Facebook too, but just about cases that we've talked about, and we like to talk to you guys on there too. We have a Patreon, and you would get 2 new episodes every month, and then other content on there if you subscribe at the $5 a month level or higher. So that's patreon.com/Resolve Mysteries Podcast, and your support really means so much to us. And there's lots of levels too where you could donate even more, and we'll send you goodies. Goodies. And you can also go to resolvemysteries.com/support to see other ways to support the show. Don't forget our merch store.
Yep. resolvemysteriespod.threadless.com is the URL for our new merch store.
Yep. And then subscribe, hit the subscribe button. That really helps us out too. And if you like us, leave a 5-star review and tell a friend.
If you don't like us, shut up.
Yeah, please don't leave a review. But those 5-star reviews and even some 4 stars that we get that are just people giving actual nice feedback is so helpful and nice.
Yes.
Yeah. For every review we receive, we donate $1 to an organization. And this month we're donating to NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And Jamie T, our amazing Patreon supporter and listener, is matching our donations. So go leave us a review there. It's a great month to do that. Okay, Resolvers, we love you. Thanks for hanging in for all the biggies.
Oh, bye.
And the smallies.
And the mediums.
Bye, guys.
Bye. If you're upset because you were expecting a real big doozy on this one, I'm real sorry.
She sounds super sorry, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm. We did it. Oh, let me pause.
It's fucking civil over here. You're like, go fuck yourself. We did it! We made it through 3 out of 5 segments.
Well, I remember that I won't be. This isn't the last, so it doesn't really lead right into
Oh, yeah.